Okay, folks, here we go.
Guys, here we go. Let's have a good show.
1B, stand by. Okay,
Yeah.
Yacht, stand.
Yeah,
Take it.
take it at midfield.
Take
Just go
it.
right now. Go to camera 3.
Can
3.
you
Go to the gate. Perfect.
you.
Just like that.
I'll just go ahead.
Yeah, graphics 2 is going to be up for the first. Okay.
Take it.
Go right now. Go to camera 3. Go. Yep. Go to the gate. Perfect. Just like that. No music.
I'm going to hand to Q. Sophie.
Wait for it. Wait for it. Wait for it.
Be on radio in the Canal Zone.
All right, guys, mic check.
Yep, go ready.
Okay, Ricky, mic.
Yep, I am ready.
Wait for it. Wait for it. Wait for it. 2.5.
Willie, mic check.
Yep, let's go.
1B, stand by.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we're live.
Okay, and go for it, guys.
All right, guys, here we are, Friday night, May 23rd. It is happy hour at the Balboa Yacht Club. It's 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific Time, where Ricky's at, and 7 p.m. Canal Zone time. So welcome, everybody. I hope you guys are ready to learn how to drive a ship through the Panama Canal, specifically through the Gatun locks, because we've got a really, really cool show tonight to talk about that and a couple other cool Canal Zone things. But of course, every Friday joining me is Ricky Royo out on the West Coast. What's going on, Ricky? Happy Friday, man.
Well, I got to tell you, Willie, my neighbors, I think, are going to cooperate and not start a fire. So remember, keep an ear on that and mute my mic. But everybody, welcome to our podcast tonight. Are you guys ready? Like Willie said, tonight we're going to learn how to take a ship through the Panama Canal. So we're probably the only show out there, Willie, that gives you this kind of information. Now, in 2 weeks, if we start seeing it on social media, then we know people are watching our show.
There you go. Absolutely. And people are definitely watching the show live here. My dad's
we got a
chiming in.
big-
Good to see you,
yes,
Dad.
we see
Absolutely.
a lot
Happy
of people
Friday.
on already, right?
Yeah.
On. Yes.
Chris
Listen,
Jeffries is
everybody.
on.
Like we always start our show, hellos, welcome. As you guys know, both Willie and I, born and raised in the Canal Zone, we welcome you to the happy hour at the Balboa Yacht Club, a podcast that is also a live show that always starts with a toast to all our friends, viewers, and those
Salute,
up in heaven
indeed.
that I can feel them. They're watching the
Yes.
show with us. Salute.
Yes. Get them up there throwing some comments, Gia. Get them to chime in on the show, the people that aren't familiar with it.
Yeah, I tell you, Gia's got the whole gang up there going, we got to watch this show. You guys, come
Yeah,
on, let's
he
go
does.
watch this show. These guys are going to crack you up.
100%.
Well, welcome, everybody, man. And let's get this show rolling.
Yeah, and absolutely. And again, guys, don't forget, subscribe to the channel on YouTube, especially youtube.com/at SCN Canal Zone is where you can find it. If you just go to YouTube and type in SCN Canal Zone, all one word, it'll come up there. But make sure you subscribe to the channel and, absolutely enjoy everything that is the Canal Zone. And again, we want to say hello to our friends. Chris, I don't know where Chris is at because Chris will chime in from anywhere. He'll be in Panama, in Europe, in the States somewhere. Chris obviously is still flying. He used to fly F-15s, but now he flies big, slow, boring jets. But I guess it's a nice change of pace.
Yeah, that's probably what he tells us. Yeah, I'm doing commercial jets. He's on F-15s out there in Yemen or something.
Absolutely. Yeah, he knows all the codes on that. Rich, good to see you. Saludos. Good to see you there. And Michael Yan, good to hear from you, Michael. Going to be a great show.
All right.
Andrew's
Mr. Michael.
obviously going to be on, as well as several other folks to show us everything about transiting the canal. Michael Yan, guys, if you don't know, he was on our show about a month ago now, talking about the Darien and what's going on there. He was in the Darien actually with Matt Tomlett, and Andrew went and picked them up, and he was also doing several other shows. But of course, we had the good fortune of having him on our show first. I mean, shortly after he got picked up. I mean,
and Willie, all the stuff that he spoke about that night, it's now developing. You're seeing what
all
he
of a
talked
sudden,
about.
right?
It's now exactly what he said. So, you heard it first and foremost right here before he went on his other show. You remember, he went right from the jungle
to
the boat.
And he had Laura
to
Loomer
the
with him, which is
podcast.
another very well-known person, in the geopolitical world. And Michael has a history of of geopolitics, of also of journalism. You know, he was a war correspondent. He was also, and then thank you for serving, Michael. He was also, you know, in our military, in our special forces. So a great fan of the show, and we're a great fan of his show. You can find Michael online. He's got several platforms as well that you can check him out on. He's very active on Twitter, and he's got some great YouTube videos, and he's got a Substack which throws some great information that we've certainly used, you know, for some of our opinions and material here as well. So thanks for tuning in, Michael. We really love having you on, and you know, again, anytime we're going to talk about the Darien, you know, we'll be reaching out to you first to get you on. Let's see, Chris is home, but about to
Home,
fly to New Hampshire.
New
Okay,
Hampshire. Uh-huh.
boy,
Uh-huh.
that'll be a fun place, New Hampshire.
Yeah, my spy's telling me you were in Yemen hanging out there. Or no,
Uh,
what's it? Djibouti. That's where our spies told us
there
you
you
were
go.
seen having a beer.
There you go. Well, we know it.
Hey,
Jim,
Jim and Diane.
good to see you guys. Accepted at 30. Oh, well, happy anniversary, Kim and Mike. 33, very good. 33
Right on,
years, right
guys.
on.
Got to
And
cheers
then
to
you guys
that. All
celebrated your
right.
61st. Well, that's absolutely worth a toast there, everybody. Salute
Yeah, when you're
to
drinking German
two
beer, we can salute all night.
nuptials there. Yeah, my God, that's 94 years of marriage there, man. Well done, guys. Congrats. You got Braxton Bernard, Michael Yan, absolutely. And hello to us as well. And I know you meant that also, but yeah, good to see you there. And good to see our friend Akito. Um, I believe I'm saying it right, Matsushita. There it is on the screen there. Akita Matsushita. 9 o'clock in the morning, bright and early in Japan, watching the show. Love having you on.
Appreciate that, guys.
Remember, he chimed in when Nordier was on with the history
The
of the Panama
railroads.
Railroad, right? And he was, in particular, looking up a town that they were looking for that we found out in the Kahoot. We confirmed it was a town called San Pablo, which was right on the bank of the canal. A little bit, I guess you could would be north of Gamboa, right? If you look at the map correctly. And but unfortunately, that town was a victim of the canal. It, it ran right over there, so they just dug all that out, and
Eminent domain. And
yeah,
you know what, Willie? They're going through that right now with, they want to expand the watershed. The U.S.
right,
Corps of Engineers is down there helping out with this big project, and
sure,
of course they're getting that usual, kickback from not kickback, but
pushback.
pushback. That's the correct word. From those forces that are also causing other troubles down there. But let's not talk politics. We got such a
No, yeah,
great
we're not going to have
show.
that today because we certainly could go into that quite a bit today in Panama because that Panama is on fire right now. But
Oh
that's for
yeah.
another day. We've got a great show.
Mhm.
We're going back to the Canal Zone here. Still back to current Panama Canal, but mostly the Canal Zone Panama Canal back in the day. And again, we're going to learn what it was like to get a ship from the anchorage all the way through the locks in Gatun and eventually out into the lake, which is
Mhm.
obviously just the first part of the journey, but that's the one we're going to focus on because a lot of moving parts, a lot of people involved that all have to know what they're doing, be very well coordinated to make this work. So it's going to be really cool to get the perspective from marine traffic control, perspective from Captain Andrew, obviously the pilot on the ship, and then from David Cohen piloting the tugboat out there, and then Jim Duff is on the locks coordinating all those things there because we have the mules there and the gates obviously opening and closing, and you have water going from one chamber to another. So it's quite the choreographed operation, and it's going on for not one but several ships at a time moving in two directions. So
And
uh,
with an additional set of locks, it's doubled.
yeah, they've doubled it now, exactly. So it's really impressive to see that. It's going to be a lot of fun to talk to these guys. Long time coming on this show. Been looking forward to doing this for a while there. But as we know with Zonians, it's like herding cats to get everybody together at one spot, and so we finally
But
managed to
we are
pull it
building
off.
a community
Fingers
here.
crossed. Yeah,
We are
exactly.
building a community here, so they're starting to come, and we
That is true.
appreciate that, guys. We totally appreciate that.
And that was a nice little selfless plug that weren't ready for yet, but canalzone.me, keep that in mind. It's not up and running yet, but it will be soon. And that's a community that we're
Braxton.
building uh, with Shorty and Slim. We're building it with the Canal Zone documentary. Alex Reyes and Thane Wheeler involved in
Hmm.
that. Also, the Canal Zone reunion in Panama is involved in that as well. So, a place where we can bring all of these different zoning communities together because there are a lot of them out there, especially social media. Well, it's funny that while social media has done a lot of things to cause divide and this, that, and the other, but it's hard to argue that Facebook in particular was almost tailor made for Zonians, right? It's been a great place
You
to
know,
connect with
Willie,
people
oh,
from a
yeah,
long
let
time
me
ago.
interrupt real quick. And this is horrible that I do that to you all the time, but the Canal record
Gives me
is
an
the
excuse to drink.
OG social media
That's right. You said
of
that
getting
last year.
information from everybody, pictures, stories, putting it in a
Yep.
magazine, and we've been reading that since at least I have since the early 80s. And that was way before my time.
Right.
So you are right about that. Social media is for the Zonians,
Yeah, Zonians
created
love that
by
because
the
we
Zonians.
have, you know,
Show me
one of the things
that.
that drives social media is connections, right, and common
Correct.
themes.
And experiences.
Exactly, and the Canal Zone and everything about it, the life there, the history there, the memories, all that really fits into that type of a model of social media where
Hmm.
you find those like-minded people and things from the Balboa Rams page to the Pan Canal Society page to the CZ Brat's
Yeah,
website.
like you've mentioned several times, there's a whole ton of
Oh my God, there's
canal
a ton
pages
of
out
them,
there.
right? And then we
So
haven't even touched on the
hey,
military
another
pages. So
toast,
it
another
is absolutely.
toast
So stay
to the
tuned, guys.
Canal Zone people, man.
Canalzone.me will be a place where all of these different platforms will also reside so that you can jump from one to another and stay in touch with people
Yeah,
because
and we got the big Super Bowl of parties coming up here, guys, in
yes, we
about a
sure
month and a
do.
half.
July 4th weekend is America's birthday, but it's also Pan Canal Society reunion, and it's a great time. Of course, this year 4th of July falls on a Friday, so good opportunity to get a nice long weekend in there and enjoy everything that Orlando and the Canal Zone has to offer. And the Pan Canal Society is, as we know, puts on a fantastic show. Uh, I know the cutoff was the 23rd for the hotel reservations to get the Pan Canal Society rate. Uh, but as I always say, doesn't hurt to ask, right? Worst they can tell you is no. But
Tell them you know Willie.
there you go. Tell them yeah, happy out the Balboa Yacht Club. Tell them we're the guys at the bar there that know the manager at the bar there that lets us do
That'll get you in. Yeah, yeah.
those free shows, right? But still, if you go there and you don't get the Canal Society rate, so be it. A great time is still going to be had. There's a
Yeah,
lot of
that place is
lot of
not expensive, so it's not like
and
huge difference. But there is a little difference. It's totally worth to get the Canal Zone rates because
yeah.
there is a discount there.
So, but
But hey, still come. It's like you can't come.
it's a
Come.
lot of fun. Even if you just make
Yeah.
a day trip out. If you live in Florida, anywhere in Central Florida, make a day trip and show
The
up there.
pool
And
party for
yeah,
sure. Can't miss
absolutely,
the
that's a
pool
lot
party.
of fun. So.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, that's coming up. Also, one of our guests tonight, Jim Duffus, he has a golf tournament, a memorial
Oh
golf
yes, good one.
tournament. That let me go ahead and get this on the screen here. Bear with me a
Excuse me,
second.
everybody.
And bless you, Ricky.
These beers.
I'm going to throw in some information, and we're going to post this on the SCN Canal Zone Facebook page as well. But this is a golf tournament that's being held up in the Northwest, and it's going to be held on the 27th of June, on Friday the 27th. It's called the second annual No Surrender Golf Tournament. It's in honor of Josh Duffus. And they're seeking still people participants. Again, it's on the 27th, which is a Friday. Elk Ridge Golf Course in Carson, Washington. 8 a.m. shotgun start. Uh, Typical golf format, right? Four-person team. It's a scramble. If you guys don't know what a scramble is, it's where obviously you tee off and whoever's has the best shot there. That's where obviously everybody else is going to be hitting from, and then you continue that way. So you don't have to be a PGA pro to enjoy it. Cost per player is 125, and that includes green fees, cart costs, a goodie bag, and lunch. So that's a great deal, guys. And again, it's a fundraiser, for the No Surrender in honor of Josh Duffus. So more information. Again, we'll put it on the Facebook page, but try and get in. I know it's kind of short notice, but May 25th of by Sunday, if you can get your information in. There's an address on here. Venmo's another option here. So keep this in mind. And again, after the show, I'll get this posted up on our Facebook page as well, so you guys can check it out there as well. But that's and you know what? I did it again, Ricky. You got to remind me when I'm talking away, and I don't even have it on the screen. I had it on our screen, but not on the on the screen for the viewer. So apologies. I'm not going to start over, but there you have the information. And again, you'll be able to see it on the Facebook page here after the show as well. Get involved, and if you can't make it out there, certainly send a donation. Let's see if we Ricky, see if we can't try and get something from Happy Out the Balboa Yacht Club. right? We'll do a little fundraising drive as well. See if we can't participate, at least in spirit and help out to do some fundraising, because that's a great cause as well. So,
Yes,
but
yes.
keep that in mind, guys. And nonetheless, moving right along here. Recently we've had, well, not recently, but every so often I get emails or messages. We talk about a couple times that we've done some sports shows here, right? We've done some sports shows. We had a really great show with our Balboa High School coaches, right? Coach Holland was on here, Coach Bales,
Great show.
all the way from Japan. Coach Houston was on. Great show there. We've had a couple of Balboa Rams shows, actually about 3 or 4 of those Balboa Rams shows. We had a Kiwani Colts show here just a few weeks ago. We've had a
Albrook
great
Jets.
baseball show, Albrook Jets show. So a lot of these shows, which again, sports was big in Panama, but I do get correspondence every so often. They're like, hey, what about the ladies sports, right? And I obviously I didn't participate, I didn't coach, so I'm limited as to what I can do there. Similar to what I say when it comes to the Atlantic side, right? I don't do a lot of Atlantic side coverage because I lived in Atlantic side when I was 1 year old. I have no memories of it whatsoever, so I can't tell you anything other than Mount Hope train station and the football and
Football.
baseball field.
Yeah.
That's it. I didn't even paddle, so I didn't even I couldn't even tell you what the Gatun Yacht Club and any of that stuff looks like. Same thing with women's sports. But that being said, we do also bring up here on occasion the the kids of Zonians that are having success in sports, either in a professional level or even at a high level in collegiate sports, etc. And to that point here, one of our own Zonians, in fact, a classmate of mine, and you'll find out here in just a moment because I'm going to play this short, quick video here. But her daughter is playing golf. She's a freshman for Florida State University, and they just finished playing the semifinals of the basically the college championship, right? I guess you could call it the Final Four in a sense that they were in. Unfortunately, they didn't move on, but Florida State's had a fantastic season. They won the ACC tournament. They've won quite a few tournaments. So check this out here real quick, guys.
And from Florida State, please welcome Alexandra Gazzoli.
So her mom is Sheila Guerrero Gazzoli now. She's married, of course. But she's one of my classmates, class of '86, and this is her daughter Alexandra. She's a freshman. She just started playing collegiate golf, but as you can see, she's been playing the game for quite a long time. And obviously, she's obviously a quite a scholar as well, which well done. You go to college to get an education and also get an opportunity to play golf there, but. Florida State has done really, really well this year, and she played a big role in that. So congrats to
Congrats.
Alexandra
Some
Gazzoli.
Canal Zone DNA.
Yes,
You know
absolutely.
what? The Canal Zone, Willie, as we have mentioned before in our shows, to maintain the workforce, the first 2 or 3 golf courses in the whole Panama were in the Canal Zone, and they were designed by the top golfers of the time.
Yes, indeed.
So that's what again, Canal Zone DNA in Panama, from the Cayuca race to football, golf is also in that, and
Yeah,
a lot of
golf
things
has
that we've
always been
also
big.
talked about. Whenever there was huge golf tournaments at the international levels, the Canal Zone and Panama competed. The governor and the presidents would show up. So yeah, it's been part of the Panamanian Canal Zone brotherhood since the early days. So
Indeed, it
yes,
has,
good to
and
see it.
it is good to see, and it's always good to see the kids of our friends have success at these high levels like that. It makes you proud, right? Because there's some Zonian DNA there. There's a
We
part of
love
a
it, man.
canal zone
We'll
there
talk
that's
about it all day long, man.
yeah.
Cheers to
So
that DNA,
yeah,
man. Really,
absolutely.
cheers
So
to that
congrats,
DNA.
well done, Alexandra. Hope your sophomore, junior, and senior years are great, and also Sheila, congrats to you as well, and with all that stuff. But yeah, the Hatun Yacht Club. I don't have to. Well, I could say the same thing about the Balboa Yacht Club. Hence the reason why we did this. And you know what? I did forget today with our show prep that we were. We were going to switch our background and go back to the bar background. Ricky and I have decided that every so often we'll go back to the old one, kind of nostalgic. We
Yeah.
still want to keep this new one. It's a little bit less busy, right? It's less distracting, and I'm kind of OCD, and so if I have something that has square boxes and
Everybody's
shapes, I feel like I
OCD.
got to put stuff in there, right? And so this one gives me a little bit of freedom to
Hey Willie,
to
I'll
put
tell you,
things
I
where I
always
need them.
say
But
we're lucky we were like diagnosed or checked for none of those
yeah, no doubt.
OCDC and
I,
this
I'd
and
have been
that,
on
because
I'd have been on a
Jesus
medicine cabinet
Christ,
full of pills,
that whole
man.
school would have been under that.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. No doubt about it. But yes, yeah, go Knowles, man. That's a listen, great season for those ladies. Again, they won the ACC tournament. They won several other tournaments, and she was a big part of it. They have two of the number one and number two ranked amateur golfers in the country play
Hmm.
for Florida State. So she's in with good company there, and
Yeah.
she still was able to, showcase herself and do well. Even though you had these, I mean, just powerhouse golfers with them. So
Yeah, like we say in Panama, she definitely is not Chi Chi Pati.
yeah, no, no doubt. I mean, listen, when that one you saw the video there, she's what,
Hey, what's up,
3 4
Warren?
years old, man, and she hit that driver better than I do.
Oh
It was
my
nice and
God.
straight,
Yeah,
you know. And check out Warren here. We're competing tomorrow at New Breed Jiu Jitsu. Okay, cool.
that's
Listen,
another
remember,
Zonian kid there.
yes, yes. Both of his kids are outstanding mixed martial arts, I guess you could call it.
Hmm.
And I know that their strong suit is grappling, right? We saw that video when they were in that competition in Orlando, and he crawled up that kid like it was a tree. That kid had no idea what was coming to him. At one point, this guy's in front of him, and next thing you know, he had climbed up his back, got behind him, and 1 2 3, bye, see ya. It was impressive to see, man. That's and he's continued to win. He's had other success in a couple other tournaments recently. So good luck to you this weekend, and let us know.
We
We'll
love
we'll
it.
try and get it on next week and showcase it. And who knows, we'll maybe get them on to tell us what that's all about. It's an up and coming. It certainly has replaced boxing as the
Oh
favorite combat
yes,
sport.
especially that one YouTube kid, that blonde, whatever his name is.
Ortiz.
No, 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 the YouTuber, the kid that just
Oh
brings
yeah, 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 yeah. Yes,
puts these
yes.
fights together. And
Correct, correct. But I'm saying just in general, like UFC is now the what everybody watches as far as the fight sport goes.
Mhm.
Where boxing was always king. And Don King was always king as well. It's certainly the landscape has changed, and yeah, there's still some good boxing out there, but it doesn't have the monopoly on combat that it used to have.
Yeah,
That's for sure. And these kids are a great example of that, man. They're really good. They're very impressive, man. For sure. Yeah. It's fun to watch. Again, fun to watch our kids and our friends' kids, our fellow Zonian, because Zonians were all family, and to see their kids have that success,
yeah.
it's kind of our nephews in a way, right?
Well,
It's
let's celebrate some birthdays.
yeah, indeed, because we have quite a few
Indeed, because
birthdays
it
there.
is
And
such
Larry,
a
good to
big
see you,
part of our
man.
show. And yes, because we're getting close to our mark there, Mister. All
Yeah.
right, so to all you Canal Zone and Panamanians out there that let us know about your birthdays, here we go. From class of '81, like we always like to start from Caracas, a very good friend of mine. He was Venezuelan. Stefan Call, happy birthday to you, Stefan. Linda Hernandez out of San Antonio. Bernice Inguli out of Alaska.
Nice.
So, we always had we were very diverse at Balboa.
Sure.
We surely were. Marco Chandler, all the Zonians know Marco. Happy birthday, a true Zonian out of
Hmm.
Corundu. Michelle Malant from Panama. Happy birthday, guys. So that's the 81 class. That's my class. So we love you guys. Listen, from heaven, one of the Canal Zone's favorite, Tommy Vasquez. Happy birthday, Tommy, to you.
Hmm.
And to one of
I
my
didn't know Tommy,
favorites.
but you know what? When we did that Balboa Rams reunion last year, with Larry Cicero and these
Mhm.
guys, nothing but
Love
just
for the Vasquez
yes,
boys. Yeah,
absolutely, absolutely. It's
absolutely.
amazing that guy
Well
was somebody
deserved.
that's
Well
yeah.
deserved
It's
love.
it
Yeah,
so.
great, great boys.
Hmm.
Lynn Hedayes, one of my very best
Yes, happy
friends since
birthday,
I would say
Lynn.
sixth grade. Her and I just been tight. I mean, Lynn, happy birthday, girl. I love you very much. Erica Reyes,
Hmm.
Monica Livingston,
Yeah.
Katia Rivas,
Yeah, she was a classmate of mine in St.
Lucy
Mary's.
Paris. Happy birthday to all you beautiful women.
Yep.
Yes.
And
Carlos Lane.
Lucy's my cousin in Panama. Lucy Perez. Feliz cumpleaños, Lucy.
Lucy Perez. Yes. Carlos Lane. Is that if he's from the 82 class, he used to be a wide
86.
receiver?
No, 86 class.
Oh, okay, okay. Because I had a Carlos
Big
Lane that was a
Washington Redskin fan.
that was a wide receiver. I threw a touchdown
Okay.
pass to him too. Out of Ancon, Robert Ng. A lot of Zonians remember him. Good guy. Always played dominoes with him and his gang. Jaime Klaus, another Canal Zone favorite. Nancy Horn. Happy birthday, Miss Nancy. This one, Ruth, I hope I don't blow it, but you got 3 last names, girl. Ruth, Rio, Rovira, Maure. Happy birthday to you, Miss Ruth. Pamela Solomon. Happy birthday, Pamela. But the great Billy Carter. Sheila Farrell. Happy birthday, Miss Farrell. Marianne McGarger. Hope I said that right. Happy birthday to you, Marianne.
McCarriger.
McCarriger. There you go. Terry Hunt. Muy bonita Terry Hunt. Wow, this has been a year because I remember saying happy birthday to her because she's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful Zonian girl. Rudy Francis.
Atlantic Cider.
Atlantic Cider. Yeah, I know he was a quarterback. I remember that. But that reminds me of the John Candy movie. Francis. If you touch me, I kill you. Remember that guy? Well,
yes.
Francis. Right on, Rudy. Not making fun of you, but that was a great movie. Teresa Ridenor.
Ese era el último.
Pero anyway. No, last but not least, era
Por eso que tú no escuchas, pero anyway.
Oh, you want to say happy birthday to Teresa?
That's okay. Dale, tranquilo.
Dale, Teresa. You get it from me this year. Next year, you get it from me.
you get it twice then. But yes, happy birthday, Teresa.
For sure. Well, happy birthday you next week.
Yep. But so that's our birthdays. And again, anybody that we don't mention, happy birthday to you. If we don't know, we don't know. It is what it is.
But we try. That's a big list. Every week we get at least 30. So that's pretty cool.
We do. We get a pretty good amount here. But
listen,
anyhow,
we gotta fight hard. People tell us to eliminate that part of our show, but we always say no, we can't.
This is a Zonian family show, man. It's cool to celebrate birthdays. Plus, we have a cool song, right? We got a little Murga happy birthday too. So here you go, everybody. Happy birthday to you guys. You go. So happy birthday to everybody, and that was provided by Dave Dahlstrom, that Murga tune. Before that, we had the kazoo. I had a kazoo birthday song, which is kind of cool because something about a kazoo being all silly that somehow works. But nonetheless,
let's get this show rolling.
We are gonna push right along here. We're getting our guests are arriving in the studio here. We had a late limousine service from the airport to pick these guys up, so they're walking into the green room now and getting themselves all set up. I think they're in makeup right now or something like that.
Yeah, they must be getting makeup done right now.
But it's going to be a great show. And while we're getting everybody set up here, I want to show you guys something that Sheila Chisholm Lang sent me today and wanted to ask the folks when they come on here. So I'll go ahead and throw it on the screen right now. Let me see where it is here. I want you guys to check this out because this is... All right. There you go. How about that? He's hitting the double effect now, right? We get a drum roll and an applause here. Look at that. This guy's dangerous now. He gets that computer working, he's dangerous. But anyhow, so Sheila was mentioned on here that find out from the gentleman when they come on here the port captain's phone number. So the port captain, in essence, was... I guess the person you go to when you have issues, you got problems. Remember when Andrew Eftimitis one time was on here and mentioned the ship that collided with the Balboa Bridge.
Balboa Bridge.
And he was port captain at the time, and so that was his job then to haul ass out there. That's when we found out that they had that secret route, right? That non-public
James
road. Yeah, that would get them all the way from Balboa to Gamboa in a matter of minutes, right? Because they had that little side road. But anyway, that's who the port captain is, and that's, I guess, the person in charge of the day-to-day operations. Yeah, the quarterback. I guess that's a good analogy. So anyhow, she mentioned that her phone number was 2 2161. Now that tells you how far back that phone number was because it didn't even have the 52 on it, right? And then later on went to 252. This just had the 2 on it.
252. We were 5'2", Nama.
That's what I'm saying. We were 52, and then towards the end, I think this might have been right after you left, but
Oh,
it
yeah,
went
I
to
went to a
252,
third. Right,
right?
right.
Yep. And then from there, I think I don't know where it went from there because I think we left after that. But she had a
Oh, they
number
got
that
like
was,
7 numbers now. I mean, it's like
I guess. I mean,
4 in the
it's always based
front,
on
5 in
population.
the
You know,
back, or something
there's
like
only so many
that.
numbers you can give everybody, so you gotta add a new set of numbers in front of it, and all of a sudden you
Yeah,
know,
they have like an extra number.
yeah, they do. It is strange. It's not like it used to be. Right? It didn't because Panama, even though they were Panama and we were the U.S., they had the same dialing scheme, right? It was like I remember a lot of my aunts and uncles were 6'2" was theirs to call to
Hmm.
call it a Panama and all that. But anyway, apparently she had a phone number here that was very similar to the port captain's number, and so they were getting calls from the port captain all the time. So she wanted to know if they had tell them if they had the wrong number or if they knew what their port captain's number. Well, obviously the port captain's number now would be a little bit different, but now that Sheila, you've posted your number on there, you're going to start getting calls about your warranty. So just be ready for them. That's all I can say.
We can do a
But
song.
but yeah, so that was kind of interesting story. Then we'll see what these guys tell us, and we'll obviously ask about the whole port captain role as well because that was a big part of this. But we're gonna go ahead and bring these guys on here. We've got 3 of the 4 folks on. We've got David Cohen's on here, Andrew Eftimitis is in, and Jim Duffus is on board here. Hugh Thomas is getting ready to jump on here. He'll be here in just a moment, and then we're going to go ahead and kick things off. But in the meantime, well, David was on here just a moment ago. He just seemed to have fallen off. He's working the 4 to midnight shift, I believe, right now. So he may be busy. Maybe he ran into a ship or something. Who knows what happened there?
So,
But
here
nonetheless,
he's on. All right,
but
on, man.
they're gonna
Let's
jump
get it
on. But
going.
here they are, guys. I just kind of threw you guys onto the scene here. We didn't even have our intro, and so Andrew just bailed. He's like, "The heck with that! I wasn't ready to get on the air yet." But Jim's gonna be the trooper here for the group and say hello. But Jim, welcome to the show. Happy to have you, man.
Right on, Jim.
I'm happy to be here. Thanks, guys. It's always a great show, no matter what's going on. But we hope this is interesting to everybody that's tuned in.
Yeah, I think it will be. I think this is going to be a really interesting show. There's there's a lot of interest as we've learned from doing this show for about a year now that we knew a lot of things and we really didn't know a lot of things when it comes to the zone. And so what we've learned over time is that a lot of the curriculum that we were learning in the school was really based on following the United States and their there we go. There's Hugh's jumping on as well. Hugh, welcome to the show. Glad to have you on. We're getting people plugged in here. Andrew seems to have stepped away for just a moment, and then David, I think he's had some connection problems. But remember, he's working on on the tugs tonight. So, but anyway, guys, welcome to the show. I'm going to start off by introducing you guys so that everybody gets to know who you guys are. Obviously, we know who Captain Andrew is. He's been on our show quite a few times. In fact, I actually have to do this because I did a bit of a misstep here. But, Andrew has his own show segment here. So we got to properly introduce the show, and then we'll bring the guys back on. So
13 Bravo coming down and looking for the traffic.
Ooh, you got to keep it coming, Cap. You know you got to keep it moving, keep it coming, Cap. Ooh, don't stop me now, don't stop me now. Keep it coming, Cap. Ooh.
Hey, Aki 13 Bravo, the LSG. Keep her coming, Cap. We're waiting for you.
there you go. Now we can start the segment because now our Keep It Coming Cap, our Panama Canal report show is on. So again, guys, all 4 gentlemen are on here. David's incognito. He's probably not supposed to be on his phone right now, so he's turned his lights off so nobody can see him. He can have plausible deniability here. But nonetheless, Jim Duffus worked in the canal zone on the locks. He's our man on the ground there for this entire operation we're going to talk about and give his version of what they did to help bring those ships through the locks and teach us a little bit about what it was to work on the locks and everything that went on there. Next to him is Hugh Thomas. Hugh Thomas, for a very little while, was a Canal Zone police officer. But when he joined the force, the canal was getting ready to switch hands, and he realized, wait a minute, there's not a lot of future in the Canal Zone police. In fact, that was one of the first things to start leaving was the Canal Zone police. So he quickly said, wait a minute, you know where there is a future is in the canal itself. So he ended up going to marine traffic control and help guide the ships through and get them started on their journey through the canal. And then, of course, like I said, David Cohen, he's incognito there, but he is joining us. He's on the tugboat. He's the one that helped line that ship up properly so that we could get it into that chamber in the locks there. And then, of course, our regular Captain Andrew here, who's a Panama Canal pilot, a former port captain. We're going to ask him a question here that Sheila just brought up as well. But we're going to go ahead and kick things off real quick with a canal report, and then we'll switch gears and start talking to these folks about guiding that ship through the canal. So, Andrew, welcome. Good to see you again, man.
Hey, cheers, everybody. Good to be here. Happy to be part of it all.
Absolutely. Salute, Papa.
I want to give a special shout out to a group in Texas, Michael Young and his gang. The Doc, welcome. Maybe we'll get some more people from out of town to be watching. And like you guys, I just love what you're doing. I can't say it enough. This is for everybody. It's not just for Zonians, but it's to share our lifestyle, our way of living, our brotherhood, our sisterhood, and to bring everybody together to celebrate a little part of American history and Panamanian history as well. So I embrace that. I embrace you guys, and I'm just happy to be here.
No, we embrace you. We love what you bring to the
Panama
table.
Canal report. Water is doing good. I can tell you, I brought some of it home with me. It was raining pretty heavily this afternoon. I had South 8 second half. It was the first one in the cut, and it was raining cats and dogs.
And we're going to learn what South 8 means. So stay tuned for that.
My pants and socks got wet because I did not bring the lower half to stay dry. So lots of water. Number of the can you hear me? I hear some background noise.
Yeah, no, I think that's David. He's working right now, so he's
on an actual tugboat.
Yeah, he jumped off real quick. He's about to hit a boat or something. I don't know. He got to turn his lights on, I guess. But
okay. So we got plenty of water, and the traffic, I'll tell you, for the last 2-3 weeks, the container ship traffic, it was down, surprisingly, and it's interesting.
April? Not in April. April, they said it was the highest.
And the container traffic, I mean, today normally there's about, and I'm talking about the new locks, there's probably at least 5 to 7 container ships. Now it's down to about, I'd say 3, and none of the big ones.
Oh, yes.
But the ones that they do send northbound, to see that the ones northbound coming Far East to the United States are loaded near 50 feet, 46 feet, 47 feet in draft, and then when you see them going back to China or the Far East southbound, they have lots of containers on them. Believe me, many, but most of them are empty. Mm-hmm. So it was interesting to see how the tariffs took effect and it affected the canal. Now we did have other ships that came in, and I'm not going to say the total numbers dropped, but container traffic did drop. But it's funny, some things might slow down in one aspect, but pick up in the other types of ships. For instance, coal carriers, dry bulk carriers, tankers, and those numbers, and LPG. LNG has been down, but LPG is strong, and in general, the transit numbers have been running around, if I'm not mistaken, near 30, 30 ships a day. There could have been earlier in the month, or maybe 6 weeks ago, it could have been up to 35, 34, just to give you an idea. Today, I'd say it was around 28 between the north and southbound. It might have been a little bit less. I'll get those exact numbers here shortly.
Okay.
But
So real quick, now that we've got these other gentlemen on, and obviously when they were working the canal, that was a couple of years ago. What would for you guys? What would have been an average if he's talking 30 or 35 today? What are we thinking about back? Let's say in 1999, for example, or even a little earlier. What would be a good average?
Well, we were knocking on 40 back then, but the size was, they were smaller, see?
Okay.
These big ships, they don't go the same.
Yeah, certainly. Interesting.
So that's what happened. Probably tonnage is up, but numbers are down there.
Gotcha. Interesting. And guys, that's Hugh Thomas that's joined us here. He's former Marine Traffic Control. Okay, he's the one that's going to join us and explain what everything that happened, even way before even Andrew gets on the ship and starts to bring it through, and everybody else is involved. He's already in a sort of kind of way touching on the ship in a sense. But Hugh, give us a little background on you, your Zonian history, and finishing up with your Marine Traffic Control history.
Okay, well, I'm third generation Zonian. My grandfather on my dad's side was there during the construction. And a little fun fact, right behind me, I got a picture here. It's a painting that Matt Tomlett did.
Oh, right on.
First transit at Gatun Lock. Well, my grandfather worked there and later became the superintendent of Gatun Lock. So there's a bunch of pictures, a bunch of people on the walls watching this first ship come through. It was a big day. So I have a little joke that I play with. It's like my "Where's Waldo? Where's Grandpa?" It's one of 1,000 guys on the wall there watching the ship come through.
That's a great history, though. So you have a canal history and a maritime canal history at that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So anyway, I was third generation. I started at Marine Traffic in 1977.
Okay.
And I stayed there till I left at the end of '99. Okay. So I know how it works. The Marine Traffic Control Center is actually the hub of the whole operation of the canal. Everything's out there. The locks are the locks and the tugboats are the tugboats, but Marine Traffic Control, really, they put it all together to make it work.
Sure.
And anyway, that's
Yeah, no, and we're definitely going to get into that here in just a bit, where it all starts, and then what your role is, because I imagine there's not like a handoff, and then you don't do anything else until they get to the next stage. You're probably actively involved in that as well. But we're going to find that out here in just a moment. Jim is obviously, you guys see him joining us on the chats all the time. He's a fan of the show, and we love having him on and sharing his stories. And like I said earlier, guys, I'll post that golf tournament information as well. But Jim, give us your Canal Zone history and your Gatun Locks history, please.
Yeah, real quick. It's dragged me down to 7. My dad Navy, and so we lived in. And after a few years of working for the military, my dad decided that he got a job with Pan Canal out of Gamboa, East Navigation. And so we moved to Gamboa, and I lived in 6 different houses in Gamboa, and we moved around Los Rios and back to Gamboa, and then Clover got married, and we lived in Gamboa and Balboa, and then off to Gatun, and I eventually got on, after being an electrical apprentice with, I went on to become a Gatun Locks electrician and moved up to a tunnel leader, and then occasionally a relieving lockmaster. I was not a lockmaster, but when something went wrong and they needed a lockmaster, Jim would help. and so I really enjoyed my time there. And then, but I left in 1980, and in 1979 we were regularly doing 42 ships a day through the old locks, of course. And then we had a thing called relay lockages, and Captain Andy, I don't know if they do relay lockages anymore or not at Gatun, but one in and then tying off in the middle and then taking and then bringing another one in and that other one go up through into the lake. So we would have two ships in the locks going the same direction at one time. And I don't know if they do that anymore. Captain Andy, we'd like to hear you discuss that today.
Oh, you asked him a question, he bailed. He's like, I ain't answering that. I'm out of here, man.
No, of course not.
He hightailed it out of there. But David, I know we're having some audio
Other
issues, but I don't
than
know if
that,
you
I
can
look
hear
like
us. Or... Go ahead. Sorry, Jim. Go ahead.
Oh yeah. Other than that, I just look like Poindexter with a fan on the top of my head.
You do, but you know what? It works well with that cool mustache you have. So right on, man. Love the handle on mustache. So Andy, Jim was asking if you guys still do two ships going parallel,
Same
I guess you
direction.
could call it, same direction in the locks at the same time. If that's something that is still done,
Relay.
like a relay, yes.
Relay.
Uh,
Andy, do they still
relay
do
lock.
that? He's focusing on not kicking furniture, so
I'm not falling over.
yeah, yeah. Chewing gum and walking, right? It's a skill. But David, can you hear us real quick?
No, he's offline.
Okay, he is offline. All right, yeah, he'll hopefully join us here in just a moment there.
Anyway, well, the concept there is we have three ships in the Gatun possibly going the same direction at one time.
Okay, and what are the challenges with that for us non-canal knowledgeable people?
Wait. Three ships. In other words, one in
extra
each lock.
locomotives required on that side.
Okay.
Go ahead, Ricky.
Jim, what I was asking is, when you say three ships going on the same direction, is that one ship in each lock or chamber?
No.
Well, Ricky, you got 6 chambers, so
Okay.
at any given time you have 2 lanes. Given time you could have one ship come up, one ship going down. Chambers. In relay lockage, when one ship's going up, it might be followed by another vessel going up, and they just keep one empty chamber between them.
No, to us, to me, it always seemed like just one at a time, or like this, but one. But yeah, I guess three makes sense on each direction, so you could have 6 ships at one time crossing through the Gatun locks. That's interesting. I didn't know that.
Interesting.
Well, and that's back in 78, 78, 79. That was big during the Valdez oil, and we're moving a lot of oil vessels through. And
no, I think we're getting an echo on Andy's line. I'll hit a mute real quick. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, finish what you're saying.
But in general, to move 42 or more ships a day, we would end with relay lockages going one direction and one of the lanes, so that you would move 2 vessels in lock chambers in one direction. And
that's good to know. Yeah. That's how you get 42 ships a day through the old locks. How many are there today? How many ships going through today with the additional locks?
Well, that's what Andy just said. He said today they had 28, but they still get 35 or so, pretty much. There's another factor there. In the old days, Jim, the ships were shorter, they were smaller, and they do tandem lockages. So if the ships totaled up to less than 800 feet, you could put 2 in the same chamber and go up.
Okay.
Or down.
That's how they did it.
And that makes sense. They were the smaller ships back then, certainly.
Yeah, so if I do the math right, you're saying that all locks, because the ships were smaller, more were going through than today with additional locks, but the ships are larger and less are going through.
Exactly. The tonnage now is we can't compete with that. These are
because you have to move the same body of water through the locks, whether there's 1 or 2 ships in there.
There
And
you
so
go.
it's going to take the same amount of time to fill it or to lower it. And if you got 2 ships in there, well, then obviously you move 2 ships in that same time frame. So yeah, it's definitely going to speed it up.
I mean,
Interesting.
that is true coordination of all. I mean,
But
like a watch, like a Swiss
it's a
watch.
little bit more complex than that when you do a relay lockage, because you'll bring a ship to the lower level, raise it to the middle level, it'll lay down on hawsers, a new set of locomotives will come and grab that ship, then escort it up to the upper level. In the meantime, another vessel is coming in the lower level onto locomotives and being processed up into the middle level. He goes down on hawsers to the bits on the thing, and then the other locomotives come back, pick it up, so it's 2 sets of locomotives working in one lane. 2 complete sets of locomotives.
And when
And
you
it's kind
use
of fun. I don't mean to belabor that.
no, please don't. Listen, we don't know. That's why you guys are here. And to further clarify it, when you use the term hawser, what are we referring to there?
Fine.
Oh, sure. Those are those large 3-inch ropes that the
Okay.
vessels would have. You pull them down and tie them off on bits in the chamber while the water's stabilized, and then a fresh set of locomotives will come down, pick up that ship, and they will take their wire ropes from the locomotives back up to the ship and then move it to the upper level.
Gotcha.
And in the meantime, 4 to 6 locomotives that were on the lower end will go retrieve another ship.
Sure.
And then bring it up to the middle level. It'll go down on hawsers again, rope it off to the chamber. While the other one is exiting the lock, the locomotives will come back. So it's really more complicated than just 2 small ships in one chamber at a time.
Yeah, no, it's
Now,
quite the
wait,
dance.
another question: how many locomotives per ship? 1, 2, 4.
That's a good question, and it depends on the size of the
On
vessel.
the
It could be
size,
anywhere
okay.
from 4 locomotives with 4 wires to take the Tokyo Bay in its time, and it would have been 8 locomotives with 16 wires aboard.
Wow.
So at one time, wow, that just blows my mind. So if you had, let's say, 4 ships going at the same time, right, 2 in each direction, just not to go to the max 6, that could be a what, 4 times like 12 locomotives, 14 locomotives operating at the same time, coordinating at the same time, moving all those ships back and forth. I
Could
mean, to you
could
guys sound
have
easy.
been
To us, it
as
sounds amazing. Like you almost need
well,
AI
probably
to
10
run that
locomotives
kind of
on one
operation.
10 locomotives on one lane at a time, with 6 being the maximum on one vessel, a 6 fling, and then you'd have a small vessel, small vessel, large, so you could rotate that back and forth.
Interesting.
Anyway,
Anytime I see
just the
Canal
idea that
videos, I'm gonna pay attention to all the stuff going on because when you watch Canal videos, guys, it's you pay attention to the ship going through. That's all. You're not really
Right.
looking at what's going on around the ship. I'm gonna start looking at that, and
And now you know
everybody
what they're
else who's
talking
part of,
about. And you can
yeah,
watch
because
it and
now
some
we,
be like, hey, those are called hawsers. Be like,
or not
man,
only
that Ricky
that,
knows
just
everything,
all
man.
that coordination going on,
Yeah,
all
no.
that
Well, and let's
movement.
talk about that coordination. So let's go ahead and bring a ship in on what we call this southbound transit. Remember, guys, the canal ran north-south, right? And so southbound means we're coming in from the Atlantic Ocean, the Caribbean, and we're going to go ahead and enter. We're talking about the old locks, the Gatun locks, not the Agua Claras locks. This is the old ones here. So we all started off with marine traffic control. That's where all this coordination takes place that we've been talking about here. So, Hugh, take over. Where does this whole journey start, and when does it start?
Okay. Well, the southbounds, which are coming from the Atlantic, going to the Pacific, uh, got even numbers. So two, south 4, south 6, south 8. Northbounds were the odd numbers. And that was changed probably about the time you left, Jim, because sometimes there was confusion on the radios. It just made it a lot easier to have the even numbers were south and there was no confusion. You didn't have north 1 and south 1. If
Perfect.
you just picked up on the 1 part, at least you know who he was. So that was a simple thing. So here we go. So the way it works, the ship sends its ETA, estimated time of arrival, to the marine traffic, and it gets punched into the system. So marine traffic has a huge database. I don't know how many ships, but every ship that has ever gone through the canal, they got the dimensions on it, the draft, the locomotive requirements, the whole thing. So the ship sends us his ETA, says I'm going to be there Saturday at 2 o'clock in the morning. So there she goes. Kelly just signed in. All right. So we get the ETA, and there's a whole list of them. And now all these ships, that ship that's on the screen right now was a super. It's a full width, okay, 105-foot beam. So some are smaller, like we were talking about. If they're short enough, small enough, you can put two in there at once, but not with these big guys.
Now, when we say beam, is that the width of the ship from one side to the other? Is the beam?
The widest points, yeah.
Okay. So
And
when you look at a ship, then I guess to classify it or organize these, you're looking at the length, obviously, because that's how much room you have left for maybe another ship, and obviously the width or the beam that you're talking about, and then the draft. Explain to the folks out here that aren't familiar with ships what draft means and why that's so important.
okay, well, the draft is the underwater depth of the ship, and in salt water, the salt water is denser, so the ships float higher. In the fresh water, they drop. They go down. Andy could probably tell you. I think they go down 1.5 feet in the fresh water. These supers. So we're concerned with their freshwater draft because there's clearance in there.
Sure. Well, and all the water that you're using in the locks is fresh water because it's coming from the lake. So you're impacting it right away. Is that correct?
No. I'm just saying, if in the salt water, when the ship arrives, maybe it's 38 feet
right
in the salt water. If you on the side of the ship, there's depth draft marks.
Yeah.
Maybe 38 feet.
Okay.
By the time it gets into the fresh water, it sinks. It rides deeper in the water.
Sure. And so wouldn't it make sense because the lock chambers, the water that's brought in there is brought from the lake, so it's fresh water. So as soon as they enter that first chamber, do they sink a little bit already because of the water change?
Well, it's not. They just don't drop. I mean, it's a gradual thing. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
I mean, the water is brackish, so.
Sure. Okay, that makes sense.
Anyway, the draft that we're concerned about at the canal was always the freshwater draft.
Okay.
And typically, it used to be. Now I've been gone for 25 years. The draft, Andy could probably update us on this, but it was 39 feet 6 inches before. What do you got now, Andy?
Yeah, no, that's correct. Yeah, 12.04 in meters for those that do meters, 3906 in feet. And the interesting thing about draft, I had to do some research, but the original design of the Panama Canal was not 3906. It couldn't have been. It must have been closer to 37 and a half, 38 max. And at that draft, things move. At 3906, you get on a 750-foot bulker. You have that engine full ahead. You got all your locomotives towing. And that's when you have the 816 usually, especially on the Pacific locks. And that's our choke point is Pedro Miguel, if I'm not mistaken. The sill at Pedro Miguel is where you get down to some funky numbers. Under keel clearance, and the like. And that's why when they come up, and as Will was asking about fresh water, where's the draft red? It's in the upper chamber of Gatun and the upper chamber of Miraflores. And that's tropical fresh, which has a density of 0.99999. So if you're loading in Bangladesh or in the Mississippi River, you got to keep that number in mind so that way you don't overdraft the vessel when you get to Panama. So keep that margin in your pocket, in your calculator, as you're loading with hard red winter wheat or coal or oil or containers or whatever you're doing. You got to keep those numbers in mind because when you get up to the top of Gatun locks, they give you your draft, or the top of Miraflores locks, they give you your draft because the choke point, like I said, is at Pedro Miguel. And if you're the magic number for us in the office, I think it was 12 point, depending on the season, of course, uh, and how much we could pump extra water into Miraflores Lake. We'd add extra resources, extra tugs, extra locomotives. So if you weren't at 1204, I think we'd let them slide at 12.09. Anything over 12.1, forget it. You're not going. And you're going to have to find a way to lighten your load. Sometimes they brought barges up there, and that was very expensive because not only had to pay for your own tolls, you had to pay for the barge to come
Of
up there
course.
and unload cargo.
Wow.
So when I was in the office, I did a couple draft surveys for overdraft vessels. Pretty funny, some of the stories with that. Uh,
That's
but
interesting.
anyways,
In the aviation world, in a situation like that, when it comes to obviously in this case weight, which is what's causing it to sink more, you'd either burn off fuel if you're in the air, or remove some fuel. But isn't that something you could do on a ship, or is it just fuel doesn't play that big of a factor in the weight?
yeah, you're not going to burn off enough fuel from the upper chamber of Gatun to the anchorage. You know what I mean?
Or
So
even
they
pump it off
start
there,
playing
and
with ballast.
I'm just wondering if it would be easier to pump fuel out of it than it would be unload cargo, or I guess probably
Well,
Still got to
vastly
be
in,
a
different.
in
barge.
extreme, this is just extreme cases I'm talking about. I've only seen it a couple times.
Gotcha.
And,
Okay.
and a lot, every week you get an overdraft. Every week there's somebody,
Interesting.
a few inches deep. And, they're in there, I'm sure, in the middle of the night, pumping water out for sure. Supposedly they're supposed to only move it around. Ballast water is what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Because even those loaded ships have ballast in them,
Right.
believe it or not. But they do. And so they move that around, and 99% of them get into uh, the best that they can. If they can't, then like I said, there's the stop number 12.1, which is probably I forgot what it was in feet, but the underkeel clearance over there at Pedro Miguel, and there's also the bilge keel radius. Of all things, the design over there at Pedro Miguel, there's a slab of cement on the corner of the bottom corner of the chamber, a triangle piece of cement all the way down the chamber, the length of the chamber. So if your bilge keel radius is less than 1.6 meters, you're going to be in big trouble.
So you're gonna hit that,
That's
I guess.
what's that?
You're gonna hit that
You'll
line.
hit that. You'll hit that little piece of cement.
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, and somebody in the comment just chimed in there, William Conley, that it happened last week, the overdraft. So it, I guess. Well, hey, you know what? That's you're relying on people's information, and people maybe doing the right thing, or for an extra $1,000 they maybe throw a few more containers on there and bring it down to where it shouldn't be. But so let's get back then to the entrance here. So Hugh, you've got the paperwork, you've got everything going here. It's now scheduled. What's the next step then, and to get this thing moving?
Okay, well, I guess I'll skip over a bunch of it, but
Well,
the
no, you don't
larger
have to. I mean,
ships.
give us in order. Everybody's here to learn. We're gonna, eventually
Okay,
we're gonna try and do this ourselves.
okay, good. So here you go. The larger ships were called clear cut daylight. That meant they can't meet any traffic in Gaillard Cut.
Okay.
Okay, so they're one way, and daylight transits. Later on, they evolved to the high mast lighting. So they
Okay.
got these big street lights that are up over the thing, and that illuminated the locks, and that allowed for some leeway on which ships could then transit at night. Some of those larger ships they used to be sunrise to sunset, had to
Wow.
be in and out of the lock, really limiting. Well,
Interesting.
once they opened up with that high mast lighting, They paid the pilots a little bit more money, and miraculously, those ships could go through in the evening. And it's true.
Right.
Yeah. And
Money talks.
yeah, and so what it did, it allowed for, yeah, no, it's not work.
Money talks.
And what they did on that, it allowed for a lot more leeway on the scheduling. We could get a lot more ships through. Productivity was up. So
Sure.
there you go.
So so now, especially on a southbound transit where it's going to take a while to get to Gaylord Cut, and so you've got to really have that, program to where it's not going to interfere with anything coming the other direction for several hours, I would imagine. Is
Right.
or what
Well,
what's
there you go. And so Andrew started out may have been a little earlier before we got live here, where he said he was on South 8.
right?
Okay. That's the fourth ship, and he was the first one in the cut. So South 2, 4, and 6 apparently went up to the lake and got off. They anchored. So
Oh, okay.
Andrew's ship was the first one across. The way it works, the northbounds coming out of the Pacific are coming up, and once they get past Gamboa, you run all those big guys out. Once they pass Gamboa, now the first southbound can come in. They're clear
Okay.
cut. They're not meeting anybody. See,
So Gamboa is where the Gaylord Cut starts,
There-
heading south.
that's right.
I'll send you today's meeting, Will, so you can post today's meeting. So if somebody has an idea of what it looks like uh, when I'm the first southbound,
Right on.
I'm going to send it to you by WhatsApp. Hold on one second,
Yep.
Will.
You got it. Absolutely. So while he's sending that up, so we've got him scheduled now, and now this is determined at the beginning of the day, right? Who's going to start at what time?
A day in advance.
A day in advance. Okay.
A day in advance. Yeah.
Okay.
So we built the schedule. We figured it out, and the whole trick when I was there, the whole trick was keeping Gatun locks busy. If you can keep Gatun locks busy, that pretty much determined the capacity of the canal.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, that was the bottleneck.
As Gatun goes, the canal goes.
Excuse me?
As Gatun goes, the canal goes.
That's how it was. Now, I'm not sure if things changed now that they widened the cut and deepened the cut, but I believe it's still the bottleneck.
Okay.
So what they did to increase traffic was what Jim was saying, relays. There was extra locomotives on one side of the lock. They didn't have enough electricity or locomotives to run that many locomotives on both sides.
Oh, interesting.
So they relayed on one side.
And now I noticed on a video here that we just saw, there was a big round disc towards the end of the lockster, and I imagine that's what rotated around to switch locomotives from one track to the other.
That's Jim's. There you go.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and Jim, we'll definitely go over that here as we
Yeah,
start.
that's a turntable. So you switch on the center wall of locomotives from one chamber or side to the other, either east or west bank.
Very cool, very cool. And we'll definitely go over that here as soon as we start entering the locks there and go over all those things. And if you guys saw real quick in the chat here, Jim Bradley designed those high mast lighting on the locks. That's really cool. Jim's got a great history in the zone there with electricity and things that he's helped design. And one of them was a lockster, including some stuff with the new locks chambers and stuff. So I'm looking forward to having Jim on and tell us that story as well. But so now, Hugh, we've scheduled the boats for next week or for tomorrow. Everything's ready to go, and now let's go ahead and get that first ship moving here. How does that work, and what's the start there where you, I guess, hand it off to Andy and he starts telling us his version of starting up the engine and
Okay,
moving
so
forward.
the schedule gets built, and the whole thing is to not have a break in the day. When yesterday's ships, the last one's coming out, you want today's ships coming in. So the idea was to have no idle time at Gatun locks.
Okay. So that was the busy locks. Or
That was it.
The goal was to have that one as busy as can be.
It had to be.
Okay.
And so, anyway, so we schedule the ship based on the time that the ship was due at the locks, they'd figure out what time the pilot had to come to work.
Okay.
So now, in most cases, the pilots live on the Pacific side now.
Right.
So they got to transit, they got to go by typically jitney to the
Sure.
Atlantic. So they, whatever, start an hour and a half earlier than they need to be in Cristobal.
Well, I'm sure they're well compensated for that too. But anyway,
And got the proper vacation time as well.
yeah, indeed. Well, no, and you know when Andrew was on here last year and we talked about that that ship that hit Gamboa, that was one of the things he mentioned was they had that special road that was designed to get vehicles to move from one locks to another without having to worry about all the burden of the traffic. Is that something you guys had back then as well that they would have taken, or were they at the mercy of the
No, no,
Panama
no.
Canal Zone traffic?
They went on the Transismian, the old
Okay.
Transismian.
Yes.
Typically an
Through the
hour and a
forest
half
preserve and
drive.
everything.
And then eventually we got, because there was a lot of civil disturbances as well,
Yeah.
we had some launches set up that would run people from Pedro McGill locks, right, the north end of Pedro McGill locks,
Ah, okay.
over to Gatun. And so sometimes the pilots would go on it, and even workers. I mean, Jim Bradley a lot of times was on those launches. I saw him often
Okay.
going on that launch. But
Interesting.
yeah, that was often a headache. Initially, way back, so there used to be, when there was communities on the Atlantic side,
Right.
they tried to keep a certain amount of pilots on the Atlantic, and they typically got those southbound ships to avoid that morning
Oh, that makes
jitney ride.
sense.
And
Sure.
then the Balboa guys pretty much filled in at Balboa. But as the Atlantic side, I guess we'll say, dwindled,
Yeah.
more people decided to move to the Pacific, and then transportation became a bigger thing.
Sure. That makes sense. And it
Yeah.
makes sense that you would have the Atlantic side residents take those southbound because your time crunch is at the beginning, not at the end. At the end, well, if it takes you 2 hours, so be it. That's
Well,
you
yeah,
know, the ship's
yeah,
already been delivered, so we're good to
yeah,
go.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's part of it. You're right.
Excellent.
So
So now,
anyway, so there we get the pilot aboard. He gets, either he meets the ship at the breakwater when it comes through the breakwater. Sometimes they anchor outside. These larger ships, it's just too congested inside the harbor in Cristobal,
sure.
so they anchor out. So the pilot would then meet them as they come through the breakwall. He'd climb up. The boarding officer goes aboard. Then the boarding officer gets up there and has everybody sign the paperwork. They got to pay the bills.
Okay. Now,
And
now let me ask you, the ships out there that are anchored, I don't know if you can answer that, or maybe Andrew, you can answer that. How do they determine where they drop anchor out there? Is it just you find a spot, or is it something that you guys pre-plan in order to have easier access? Bueller, Steve, Mike, Robbie, Ricky, Joey, anyone? So no, so um, how do you guys determine that? Where the ships are positioned out in the anchorage out there, or is that something the captain of the ship themselves determine as they arrive?
yeah,
The ships do it themselves. Is that just does it make a difference to you guys? I think you're muted, Andrew.
I hear you.
Oh, you know what? Let me get him on. I got him. Okay, now go ahead. Now you can
Go
talk.
ahead, Andy.
All
Yep.
right. So what
Yes.
we have on either side are and they've been around for years. The port entry coordinator, one in Cristobal at the signal station, and one in Flamenco signal station, channel 12 VHF on both sides. So they designate where to anchor. They give you a range and bearing. But recently, one of my coworkers has set up a system on the electronic charts with pre-designated positions that are alphanumeric, which I'll show you here once we go through my bag of goodies because every pilot goes to work with a pilot bag besides the life jacket and the helmet, which is all interesting how safety is improved and the different um, equipment that we've transitioned into, especially with the radios. Back in the day, they used to use signal flags, and some traditions that remain even today are the bags with the lights. That's right. We still get these bags that are handmade, who knows where, but they store the cross bridge radio and the signal lights for if your radio goes, which I've never used in my life, and I can't remember the signals. There's a set of signals for them that would direct the locomotives if your radios goes. And
Interesting. Well, now that everybody watches this show, so now you're gonna get a quiz on this next week. Just be ready. Someone's gonna call you and ask for some signals now because now they know that you don't know them. So you may want to.
I mean, they transitioned from they're a flashlight with a cone on the end, and really, if you lose radio contact, the first thing you should do is stop the
Right.
ship, really. But maybe before radio, that's what they were using.
Makes
And
sense.
there's a lot of traditions that have been lost. I forgot. Like the pilot that's why the red hat came in so that the operator could see the difference between the captain and the pilot.
Oh,
And I think that's where that red hat came into
sure.
play.
Focus on the red hat.
The red hat, or back in the 60s, they wore the plinth helmet. That was the big thing. Everybody was wearing the Lawrence of Arabia, the plinth.
Really?
Yeah, that was a lot of pilots had that. I don't know if Jim or Hugh, you recall any of that stuff in the 60s, pilots wearing that helmet.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember several of them.
Wow.
I don't know if it was a fashion statement, but even I'll tell you what, I saw pictures of the military in Panama at the locks wearing that helmet. That helmet was an authorized military helmet, and it's the one that's kind of like a dome top and then a circular sombrero brim. Do you know what
Okay.
I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Like a straw hat?
It wasn't
Oh.
necessarily straw, but it was kind of a mesh of some sort.
Okay. Okay.
If you just Google Plith helmet. Well,
Yeah.
anyways,
Pith helmet.
back over at the
Yeah.
signal station, they would they have designated points to call the signal station, and then when they're within a certain distance, the signal station will designate them an anchorage. If they're going to come inside, they have to ask permission from the port captain's office to anchor inside, or the port entry coordinator or signal station will bring them in to expedite boarding and for the morning run. They'll bring them out from outside and anchor them inside. That way, the boarding officer can get that done. Usually, 2, 4, and 6 are brought in the inside.
Interesting. Okay. And this is a great segue then to you taking over because now, as Hugh was explaining, everything's been programmed, ready to go. We're on that next day now, and you've been driven out there and you're boarding the ship. So tell us what that's like then, what we start doing there to get ready to start that transit as the
Okay,
pilot.
well, we have our life jacket. Mandatory to put that on. That's on. Now things are a lot different. Not too different, but safety items have been improved. You're on the launch, either from the boathouse, which, by the way, we have a new boathouse where the old yacht club used to be, the
Which one?
Cristobal Yacht Club.
Got it.
We have a brand new boathouse there. Before we were in a boathouse, which was kind of cool, over there in the Port of Cristobal. And I say it's kind of cool because it had like garages for the launches. But the new launches that came around in the 90s could not fit inside those garages anymore because the masts were too high.
Interesting.
Anyways, We
So now,
moved
when
from
you
there.
say a boathouse, what are we talking about? A boathouse?
The boathouse is a dual purpose building. It mans and operates the boats or launches that take the pilots out, and it has a pilot station there for the harbor pilot and for the transit pilot. That building, you'll find a couple of lazy boys, big screen TV, bank of computers with the screens for information. So it's a transitional space that is shared with the harbor pilot and the transit pilot, and nobody else is there. The deckhands come from a different location, and the boarding officers come from a different location. And if the port captain needs to board, he goes from his own pier as well on the Atlantic side.
Okay.
So at that
So
space,
who
after you've taken the
so then
jitney over or the water bus, because maybe the streets are flooded, there's
sure.
rioting, there's whatever, we have alternate transportation. You get um, to the Cristobal Boathouse before. This year, we now have the Mount Hope Boathouse, which is brand new.
Boy, I hope it's better than
Uh,
Mount Hope train station was. That thing was kind of lame.
it's in industrial. It's in industrial. If you all remember how to get into industrial, so now we go through our own security, and at the end of industrial, you go through the dry dock, and you go past the machine shops and everything, all the way to the end.
Okay.
And there's where the new boathouse is.
Okay.
And actually, we're inside where Dock 16 is, which used to be a coaling facility back in the early days. And actually, our launches leave on the old French Canal, because that
Oh, how about
is that excavation there in front of our building is the old French Canal.
Okay.
Um,
Well,
that
they did something good then.
if you put up a map, you'll be able to see
Yeah, I was
when
gonna
you
do
come
that earlier.
into Cristobal Harbor, all the way east. That's the old French Canal. That's their work that they did.
Okay.
And there's the industrial division is down at the south end of that slip or inlet, let's call it, or channel. It's a very small channel, and at the end, the tugboats go there and they get hauled out, and maintenance is done on them. Anyways, you board the launch there and you head out to uh, just inside the breakwater, and that's where we board as first control. We board, uh, we check radio, and here's our transit radio, so you can see. Interesting in the canal. A lot of places in the world use VHF radios. We use UHF. I don't know how long they've been using it for, but we have on here no less than 21 channels.
Wow.
21 channels that we use, every single one of them, because there's a locks dedicated channel, there's an emergency channel, there's a fire channel, there's a tie-up station channel, there's a harbor channel, 4 or 5 of them, so the harbor pilots can work simultaneously. But the basic meat and potato channels that we use is Channel 1 Pacific Atlantic and Channel 7 in the lake. So I get on Channel 1. The name of my vessel today was, South 8 Plena was the name of the vessel, Plena. And so I wasn't first control. Uh, it was maybe, you guys remember him, it was Camilo Porras.
Oh, yeah.
Excellent individual. He's 82 years old, okay?
How about that?
And he looks in better shape than me. Amazing guy, an amazing gentleman, and I just a joy to work with today. Just fantastic day with him. It goes by quickly.
So Andrew, I got the map up there of the Atlantic side. Then
Gatun,
walk us through what you were talking about there in Gatun. What you
All
were
right,
just
go
mentioning.
further north.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, there's Cologne and the Cristobal.
Ah, there to your right. That's the old French Canal right there.
This one that has a little bend to it.
That's it. Yep, that's where they
Okay.
first started digging.
Ah, look at that.
Zoom in over there.
Yeah, we never knew that. Right on. We know where the French Cut is, but not the French Canal.
Right on. Okay, so now we're in that channel there. So where's that that boathouse that you're talking about?
Keep going a little north. Zoom in. Yeah. You see that little pier sticking out there to the north of the right at the turn?
This one right
Where
here.
that green spot is the green.
Oh, this one right here.
Yeah, that's all. It's not green anymore. There's a building there.
Ah, okay. So that's all part of that pier then, and that's where the boathouse is.
Wait, go to your right. To your right.
Is that it
Not
right
the-
there?
Go to the right. Go to the right.
Go to the right.
Now, right there. Right there. That patch of land you're looking at is where our new boathouse is at. Right there.
Okay, interesting. All
Yeah.
right.
And
Now,
and
where
that's
was
the
it
free
before?
zone, right?
Keep going north. Keep going north into the pier 7,
Right.
pier 8. You see go over there to the finger piers.
Yep.
It's 6, 7, 8. Go to 8.
Okay.
Zoom in.
Is
Yeah.
that the one on the end there?
No, inside. Go all the way north. You see the red building?
Yeah. This one here?
No, that's at the end of the mole is the port captain and boarding.
Oh, right here on the end of this finger pier.
No. Go south. Go south.
It's a blind leading a blind here.
Right there. No, that's the port captain's office. Go to your right.
Okay.
To the finger pier, the middle finger pier, the middle finger pier.
Okay, with the big cranes on it?
Yeah, just to the right of that is the old boathouse.
Oh, okay,
The
that
red
one right
roof.
here.
Right there.
Okay.
Yeah, to the right is the old boathouse, the red roof.
Yep.
That's where we were before.
Okay. Boy, that was
Lot right there. Yeah, that's all gone now.
that was quite the
So anyways,
search for that.
I checked my radio. Check radio. On the old canal, we're not as accurate with the with this new. This is what we refer to as the PPU.
Okay.
When I say we're not as accurate because we use the ship's AIS, I'll tell you what. Electronic aids navigation in the canal is nothing new. At the turn of the century, at 2000, we had the CTAN, which was our first version, and it was used until probably 2016 for 16, 17 years. It came about in probably 98, 99. You remember the CTAN, Hugh?
It was just starting up. It was differential GPS.
Right. So we've expanded now from carrying that big suitcase and very basic graphics to what you see here. And we plug in here with this thing here. And we have a program that's called Safe Pilot with a lot more features.
Okay.
A lot more information.
And so now does that come pre-programmed with the vessel that you're working on and all the necessary information to then work and start your transit?
I'm going to give you the basics of it because I am not, a programmer by any means, and I barely know how to use this. But anyways, it's very useful because this ties in this particular ship that I was on today. We tie into the ship's AIS. From there,
and what is AIS?
The AIS is like with aircraft, is the automatic identification system.
Okay.
Which is
like a transponder.
Like a transponder, right? But those transponders are not only identity but GPS integrated and they flash out the name of the ship, the speed, the
Gotcha.
location, the
Sure.
draft, the size, destination. But we grab the GPS part of it and
Okay.
correct it with our shore base satellite. I mean, correction, which Hugh was talking about, which is the DGPS
Differential.
the and that takes the signal and is corrected to a fixed point on land.
Okay, so it's much more accurate at that point as you're approaching, which
Yeah,
obviously you want to have.
but
Okay.
so we use this this uh this iPad. I mean, I've navigated in zero visibility with this thing because it's real time.
Wow. Okay.
Real time. I mean, today we had, like I said, we had the heavy rain, and I use this in conjunction with the radar,
Sure.
to double check. But this thing really is it gives you the information of not only your ship, what everybody else is doing, where they're at. They're slowing down, so it's become a lot quieter on the canal. But I still give a courtesy call. Hey, I'm slowing down. Rain ahead. Just to give them a heads up in case they don't have their nose in this.
Right. Right.
So, and this thing, you can you can zoom in. As you can see, here is a live shot of this guy coming out. You can zoom in, tap on him, and you can see
Oh yeah, it gives you all the
his
information you need.
information, speed. So one of the first things we do is we plug this in, check the radio, ask the skipper, how everything's going. Is the ship operating properly? Are there any deficiencies? Please have somebody standing by the radio. We're going to be getting the Canal seaman aboard in 15, 20 minutes. Second control pilot. Uh, one coffee, a little bit of milk, no sugar, and um,
So
and
it's a
so we
great
just
communication tool.
go through some pleasantries down the channel, and give them some advance information on where we're going and what we're doing.
So now
And
going back up to where you were telling us the boathouse. So is that where then you arrive to do this southbound? Is that where you get on a launch, I guess, to go to the ship?
The new one.
that was the old spot. Go
The old
back to where I
spot.
told you the new spot was.
Okay, gotcha. And then from there, you're on the ship now. Um, what's the first thing you do when you get on ship? You mentioned you go through a safety check real quick, make sure that everybody has, I guess, their life preservers and all that stuff. What's the next step for you to get this ship underway?
Yeah. Oh, well, the ship's already on the Atlantic side. It's a little unique. If you don't board it at the anchorage, it's already underway. So, we
Okay.
get the radio. All right, South 8, Plena, checking radio. So calling Hugh, and he gives us the rundown on where we're going and what time to be there.
Okay, so that's where the coordination starts, and he's got that pre-programmed now and giving you the information so you can plan accordingly. And like you said, if they're on the map there, we see that that's the breakwater there, right? Those two lines, those diagonal lines there. Is
That's
that where?
correct.
Okay, so if they've crossed through that, then at that point they are underway. Anything prior to that is when they're considered out on anchorage. Is that correct?
That's the outer anchorage, right?
Okay, okay. So now you got on the ship. You've Hugh's giving you the instructions what you're gonna do, and now you're waiting your turn. What's the typical waiting time there before you start moving? Or is
Oh,
there a
you're
typical
talking
waiting time?
about the guys, the ship. No, once they're moving, they're ready. They started their transit. They're on their way.
Okay. So
They're on their
so it
way.
has begun. Before you get on the ship, it's already started. Then at that point, moving in that direction, you're going to get
Right.
on then and take.
Because the
Okay.
port entry coordinator told them, hey, 0300 at the breakwater.
Oh,
So
okay.
be there or be square.
So let me ask
Here's
you, what
some
happens? In the instance that they're
Anchorage,
not there at 3 o'clock,
my
what
good friend
happens?
Jaime Chen put this together as a project. Those are anchorage circles, pre-designated spots spaced according to the length of the ship.
Okay.
And before they would give a range and bearing, and then now they tell them, like in this case, Whiskey Alpha 02, and that'll be the designated, because these circles are now on all electronic charts, and they're on the Atlantic and in the Pacific. Here on the outer Atlantic, they don't have them, but they did do it. Here you can see the traffic separation scheme, so that ships are in their designated lanes coming in and out of the canal
Oh,
on
okay.
their approach.
Interesting.
But on the Pacific side, those anchorage areas are inscribed on the electronic chart as a
Ah,
reference.
gotcha.
But
Okay.
the transit has started now. He's passed through the breakwater. The pilot's aboard. We've communicated with transit, and they've given us where we're going, time to be there, and our resources, where our line handlers are coming from, the second control, if applicable, what his duty time is, and he should be at Davis Landing, and the tugs that are available, and they give us some other information. No food, no
Well,
drink.
come here.
If the boarding is determined that the vessel's not have met the sanitary requirements, or
Okay.
the things like that, daylight restrictions, and they
Sure.
give you a rundown of other traffic. There might be harbor traffic going on, and northbounds that you might meet along the way.
Okay. Interesting. So now, as you're approaching here, you're working your way down. You're still in communication with Marine Traffic Control, correct?
Yeah, we're always on channel one until we get down to the nitty gritty and check radio with Jim at the locks.
Okay, so let's assume we're getting to that point now. Is there anything prior to that that you're going over or preparing for before you communicate with Jim and start getting into the locks there?
The only thing I'm looking at is to make sure that the captain, is aware of everything going on. I need his full attention. I can't have him loading stores or doing payroll or any of that. That's all. We're now in the thick of it. I need a guy forward with a radio in case of an emergency. Get ready to let go the anchor. I need you to have somebody standing by with a radio at the boarding facility. That's key, that it's in operational condition and that it meets all the criteria for safe boarding. A lot of things are happening on the southbound a lot quicker than on the Pacific side. You got more time.
Okay.
And so
And is this
try
prior to
to get
crossing
him
that bridge, or is this
prepared.
after crossing that bridge? Is all that you're talking about prior to crossing that bridge, or after?
Prior to crossing the bridge.
Okay, gotcha. And then your line handlers at this point, they're going to come on board as well. Although, like we saw today, uh, it sometimes may be a scheduling quirk there, but typically you want to have them on before you get to that point. Is that correct?
70% of the time, it's south of the bridge.
Okay. Okay, so that's more common. Gotcha.
Yeah, between Davis and the bridge.
All right. And on this map here, real quick, where is Davis? If we're looking at this here.
Keep going
Oh,
down.
good.
Right there.
Okay.
Fort Davis? That's
Davis
well,
Landing.
Davis
Davis
Landing.
Landing.
Okay, okay, gotcha. And that's where today on that promo video we did, that's where they were supposed to jump on your ship and they ended up taking them there instead, and you were already past that. Correct? The ones this morning that we were talking about. When they were going to do that ship-to-ship transfer and they got off the other launch.
Oh,
and
right.
And you guys were already past that at that point then, obviously, and so they kept going past you and obviously had to turn around and catch up and get on the ship there. So now we've gotten them on the ship. You've got everything set up. You've got the people in the key positions for all your safety protocols, etc. And again, you're still talking to Hugh in Marine Traffic Control, but now we're going to get the locks involved and Jim involved here. So walk us
Well,
through
don't
what
forget
starts
we
to
got to
happen
make
there.
fast the tugs. Don't forget we got to make fast the tugs. That's a
Sorry,
key
that's right.
thing is getting your tugs, and your first tug goes for me. 99% of the time, I put it on the bow. Is my first tug. Unless I'm flying down there, and I need to slow down, I might throw one on the stern. But the second tug will be made fast on the stern, as we like to say, cut style. Cut style is dead astern, and in the Panama Canal, uh, 99% of our tug work is indirect towing. Uh, I'm sorry, direct towing. Direct meaning it's a straight line pull on the tugs, and indirect is traditionally a longer lead, and the tug will flare off into the side of the channel, one side or another, to make to turn the vessel or to slow you down. We don't have that type of space in the Panama Canal. We don't have it to allow indirect in the harbor. You can do indirect towing. There's more space to swing the tug around. But after talking to the transit, we communicate with the tug, and we have him make fast.
Okay.
So if I'm going west, like I did today, I put him on the starboard bow, and that'd be like the Unidad, tug Unidad. All right, A cap, yeah. Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening. Make fast on the starboard bow, and and then he does so. And then the second guy was Bocas del Toro. Bocas del Toro, all right, make fast, cut style, and he
And now
puts two
is
lines
is
up.
English the official language that's used for communicating with everybody?
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
For transit, for tug orders, and for the locks.
Gotcha. Okay. And now, so as far as you deciding where to position the tugs, what is it that determines that factor for you? Is it, because earlier, remember last night Jim was talking about that one ship that was approaching, and it was very light, a car carrier, but it was obviously empty, and so the wind pushed it and it started twisting around. Um, is that something you're looking at with the tugs there to keep them, uh, in- you know, in the right direction and facing the way you want them? Is that part of their role? And is the wind something that tells you which way to position the tugs?
Well, the tug positions are going to be done in accordance with the chamber or the side of the locks that you're going, regardless
Okay,
of the wind. If you're going west and you're going south, the tugs have to be on the starboard side of your vessel, because you have the center wall on your port side or your left side. If
gotcha.
you're going east, you have to put that bow tug on your port bow.
Which, as you can see, I've zoomed in there and to show that there. So that center wall obviously goes out further out, and therefore you couldn't have any tugs on that side, but you obviously have enough room on the other side that they can maneuver and still be within that, I guess, the entrance of the chamber, correct?
Yeah, you can see here he's got two tugs pushing him to the wall. The interesting construction on the Gatun locks is it's as closest to an invisible wall as you're going to get for the time. And when I say invisible wall, when the lock's water comes out of Gatun, the spill from the ship ahead of you, it does permeate or penetrate the wall in Gatun uh, 10 times better than Miraflores. Miraflores is a solid wall. And water is not compressible.
Right.
And I've been in situations, you're creeping along in Miraflores northbound, and you have those tugs full. You have the locomotives braking. You have the bow thruster full, and the ship is 10 feet off the wall, not going anywhere. Actually, opening towards that knuckle, and that's where you gotta, slow down, back if necessary, and get that bow in. Now,
Interesting.
I'm not going to say it does not happen in Gatun. It does, and you got to watch that bow. Uh, can peel off, but it is not as evident as in Miraflores. Miraflores is just notorious, especially on that west side, for opening and kissing that knuckle.
Interesting.
Uh,
Okay.
and so in Gatun, with the water passing from one side to the other, um, you don't have that buildup of pressure or whatever to keep the vessel off the wall. It'll go to the wall and pretty much stay on the wall. So as you're
Okay.
making the approach, the tugs are made fast. As you pass the soft nose or
What does
the
the
end
term
of
"made
the
fast" mean? When you're saying "made fast" or "make fast," what are you telling them?
that the lines are tied up to the ship. The tugboat lines are made fast.
Okay. In
In
other
the
words,
in the
faster.
case of the Mexican ship that was in New York and that had
Right.
an incident there, the tug I found out was made fast on the quarter, on the starboard quarter, that was attached to the Kutlamak on the
Right.
starboard quarter, and they had the white canvas to protect, from smearing the side of the ship with the tugboat.
Right.
And the idea there, backing out of South Street Seaport on that vessel, his idea was um, that type of engine on that sailing vessel was a controllable pitch propeller or a CPP. And how does a CPP work? It's just like an airplane propeller, constantly rotating. It's
Okay.
always rotating.
And
It
the and
doesn't
the and the
stop.
pitch changes to give you more or less thrust.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You change the pitch to a head or a stern, and sometimes it has creep
Right.
because when you put it at zero, sometimes it's a stern, sometimes it's a head.
Sure.
You got to figure it out. Those are very, very delicate type of systems to use. The advantage to it is you get instant
Response.
action, instant
Yeah.
action. You don't have to stop the engine on big diesel ships. They actually stop the engine completely and restart it when you're going from a head to a stern.
Oh
There's no
wow.
transmission.
Wow. Yeah. I guess it would have to stop, otherwise you'd tear the whole thing up.
So, and those guys coming out, the line was made fast on the tug. He probably ordered zero pitch or stop engines. I like to say zero pitch, and then a slow or half a head, hard to port. And he may have done that and figured the stern way was just part of backing up,
Right.
and he probably said, "All right, cast off, let go your line," and the tug casts off, and it's very quick to cast the line off on those ships because the tugboat is at deck level, right there at deck
Yeah.
level.
Okay.
And that's how it was today on the ship I was on. Deck level, the guy was changed positions for me within 30 seconds.
Okay.
So that's why, I was surprised that he didn't make him fast again. But anyways, the engine got stuck in a stern bell, and that's why it accelerated astern. Anyways, here in the canal, as we cross the soft nose, I tell the tug on the stern to cast off and to stand by the quarter, no line. The guy on the bow, I use him as a brake in conjunction with the locomotives. By the time I cross the soft nose, a few minutes later, I'll have the 1 and 2 center aboard, and they are braking on the port bow, and I have the tug braking on the starboard bow, backing alongside, half full. And so a pretty loaded ship, you can come down there 1.5, 2 knots and be pretty comfortable. Anything
Okay.
over 2 knots is sketchy because the procedure for bringing your lines aboard, your heaving line, goes to the rowboat to the guy on the wall, the guy
Right.
on the wall ties it up to the wire. But if you're flying by and he's running after you to make that, and the locomotive has to keep up, so it's a tricky game,
Sure.
you don't want him running down the wall trying to do a bowline on a locomotive that's chasing you down. So
Gotcha.
keep your speed in mind.
So
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 that way
let's
your locomotives are on board on time, and you can slowly bring the vessel to the wall and slow down and bring her into the jaws of the locks where you can make fast 1 and 2 side
right.
and and wait for your gates to open.
Okay, now let me ask you. So we're gonna back the ship up a little bit here. In theory here, uh, Jim, tell us on your end here. So the ship's approaching now. What are you doing, and as far as coordinating and getting people on land on the mules and everything else to to get this whole thing started so that we can start to slow the ship down?
Sure. Thanks, Will. And I'm getting a 1 second delay on and an echo also on Candy, so it's kind of hard to follow. But
Gotcha. No worries.
for when that ship approaches the softest, we're going to make sure that the lock is ready to turn around and go upstream with our lock. It's the appropriate lock. Appropriate valves are going to be closed. Appropriate gates be closed. And just as we're going to open that vehicular bridge, remember, is at the lower end locks. That's going to be in, and then just the bow of the ship is crossing about that position, the control house operator is going to be opening gates. And Andy, you might be able to explain exactly why back in the day we used to make sure that those sea gates opened just as a vessel approached, but it had to do with the mixing of salt water and fresh water and currents. But essentially, once those gates are in and we've got number 2 locomotives fast, and then we're either doing a wing fling to the sidewall, or if it's a smaller vessel, they may be out in a rowboat where they can't throw the heaving line all the way to the knuckle where the locomotives are waiting. But 1 and 2 on center wall and 1 and 2 on the sidewall, and they're fast. Then we're taking commands from the pilot, and he's going to give us instructions whether we're going to coil in on the sidewall, coil in on the center wall, and he's going to provide most of the propulsion for getting the vessel's coasting in, basically. And there are times, depending upon the size of the vessel, then he may instruct number 1 center and sidewall to go ahead and tow. And the locomotives are going to tow 1, 2, or 3 miles per hour is basically what they had back in the 70s. And generally speaking, you're going to tow, the larger the ship, the lower the speed. So now we're going to clear through the sea gates and start entering the chamber. And the locomotive operators are only hear what the pilot is giving them, and they'll respect that familiar ding ding that you hear
Yeah.
from the bell, and that's a manually foot operated bell by the locomotive operator. If Captain Andy says number 1 coil in, then go ding ding, and you're going to roll windlass and bring that ship a little closer to you.
So that ding ding is
So
your
that's
acknowledgement.
kind of the scenario, and the captain's going to, yes, absolutely. So you're going to hear that ding ding quite often. Now, if something happens, your emergency signal is just ring that bell, because you can't execute the command that the pilot gave you.
Gotcha.
And so then you're
if you're like
gradually by vessel in.
and if you're like in an observation deck as a guest just watching and you hearing these random ding dings here, that's communication going back and forth, in other words, and that's things that are being told. But let me take it one step back for just a moment here. The ship is approaching. What are you doing to get everybody prepped on the locks in order to do their jobs? Everybody's is there like a quick briefing with the group, and say, okay, here's our ship that we're going to work. Here's what we're going to be doing. You're going to be here, here, and here. How does that work?
Yeah, you're exactly right. You've got the lockmaster is going to have that lockage slip that he's already given him. All that information. He's going to say, okay, 612 wing flank. It's southbound. Going to be on the west chamber. Here we go, and you'll have each locomotive will have a line handler assigned to it. Sometimes you'll see a line handler walking alongside the locomotive. Sometimes they used to ride on the locomotive, but their job is going to be at that heaving line and attach it to the wire of the locomotive, either front or rear and both. And then that locomotive operator, as soon as his lines are aboard or the lines are tight, he's going to run his windlasses out and feed those 1-inch wire ropes right on up the vessel. And then the line handlers that are already on board from the Davis Landing or wherever they got on board, they're going to make fast to the chocks on the vessel, and then they'll give you a signal like that, and that'll be your indication that those wires are tight on and fast on the vessel. And then you just give them a ding ding just to let them know that you've acknowledged that, and your pilot's going to see all of that taking place from the bridge, and then he's going to start giving you instructions.
Okay, and Andrew, let me ask you. So, based on what Jim's talking about here, obviously a ship is very wide. Are you walking from one side to the other end to make sure that everybody's where they're supposed to be and have acknowledged their instructions?
No, we stay on one side only. Um, the second control pilot usually is supposed to be on the other side to give you heads up on the conditions of the line throw. So he'll
Okay,
tell you, good wing fling, or they missed it. But normally you stay on the center wall, and over years of experience, you know what 2 feet look like. So you just tell them, "Hey guys, all right, 2 feet on either side." But of course, as you make your way through the chamber, if it gets skinny on one side, you'll like on the center wall, you might. There's a lot of different orders. 1 and 2 center, ease up. 1 and 2 center, slack. 1 and 2 side, coil in. And those are all different commands for what they're doing with their winches and their wires, slacking the wire, coiling it in, braking. Um, those are the operations, pretty much the basic ones that they can do. Um, and you can tell them a combination of, there's a lot of different orders. 1 center hold, 1 wire, 1 side slack, and 2 center brake. We use the locomotives as a spring. So if you see the port quarter coming in and you're on the center wall going south, you can break that 2 center is quicker than applying rudder. So if you want to apply rudder to save the stern, you apply rudder. And if it's really coming in fast, you brake on that center locomotive. And him braking brings the bow in and the stern out.
sure, a lot better
That-
than a rudder would because you don't have a whole lot of speed to get that rudder to give you a lot of effect.
yeah, exactly. And that's another reason too.
Interesting. So now we've gotten into the chamber now. Jim's gotten his folks to do what they need to do, get everybody set up. Hugh, you're still talking through all this as well, correct? You're still keeping in touch
No,
with these guys?
not really. By the time that ship is in, we're talking to the other guys. There's somebody
Ah, okay.
behind them, and the tugs have to know where to go.
Sure. Almost like an air traffic controller. At that point, they're talking to ground control. You
Oh,
release them in a sense.
oh, it's believe me, it's very busy.
Yeah.
The communications. I mean, you're talking to whoever, the locks, the line handlers, the towboats, the pilot just checking into work.
Okay.
There's a lot going on.
And now, do you communicate with Jim and those folks on the locks as well?
Not directly. We talk to the control house operators,
Ah, okay, okay. And
and
they
they,
then coordinated
and
with
they
their people.
relay down. Hey,
Gotcha.
one just kind of a fun point.
Sure.
Those locomotives only tow. And I recall one time in a sticky situation, the pilot got a little, he realized they were going to hit, and he's yelling, "Number one center, push." No way. Those wires only pull.
Wishful thinking.
Yeah.
So now Leaf here is asking in the chat there, how does a locomotive or the mule stay on the tracks with such a heavy ship? That makes sense. A ship that's weighing several thousand tons obviously has a lot more, in a tug of war with a locomotive. I think it's going to win. So yeah, what keeps that locomotive from just falling off the track?
You talking to me? Low center
Okay,
of
so
gravity?
good question.
Yeah, I think that would be a Jim
Locomotives weigh
question.
55. Yeah, the locomotives weigh 55 tons apiece, but
Okay.
they have, and if you remember, there's a track. The tow track has geared teeth in it. I remember that.
Oh,
The
okay.
return track is just like a railroad track, but the towing track has geared teeth in it, and the flange on the track is at an angle, and there are safety wheels underneath that fit in that flange. There's four of them, at least four of them, big old brass wheels, and so
Okay.
they are what anchor the towing locomotive to the tow track.
Perfect.
And so as that as the locomotive is towed in speeds 1, 2, or 3, there's a gear engaged in the track to help, like a cog away. And
Sure.
it's actually grinding and pulling against those teeth in the track to move that the vessel.
Kind of like a roller coaster
So that's
going up
where
the
all
hill
of
at the
that
beginning.
energy is.
Yeah.
All right, there you go. Sometimes it's a roller coaster, but we don't want to talk about that.
That'll be for the follies and bloopers reel that we have on there. Okay, so now let's
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
let's go ahead and get this ship and start climbing it now. We've gotten into the chamber now. Everybody's in the positions they're in
All
here.
right.
And so lead us to what the next steps are to get them to get to that chamber there. And here's where you can explain how the water moves around and what we do to get that water to go from one to the other.
Sure, no problem. Of course, once the vessel is inside the chamber and completely inside the chamber, then we can close those sea gates, and now we've got gates closed forward of the ship, gates closed behind the ship. In the locks in Panama are what we call cylindrical valves, and there's a number of ways to bring water into the chamber. So I'm just going to say the appropriate cylindrical valves. And then what you're going to do is make sure the appropriate cylindrical valves are open. I'm going to open the rising stem valve. Rising stem valves on either side will allow water to go from the chamber in front of you into the chamber behind you through the cylindrical valves and elevate the vessel in that chamber. So, and at that point, the pilot's still got to pay attention because there can be some strange eddy currents going on inside the chamber, and he'll say, number one, center wall, coil a little. Number two, sidewall, give him a little, slack, just to keep the vessel stabilized as it's rising in the chamber.
Interesting.
Once the water finalizes with the next chamber ahead, you'll actually see a little gap in the miter gates, and that's your indication that we're fully equalized between the lower level, now at full level, and the center, the next section in the lock, the center chamber is now at the same elevation as the first chamber.
That's interesting.
Those
You
gates will
mentioned that.
kind of part,
Yeah,
and then you'll hear that bell.
So that gap there, is it done by accident, purposely, or how does that work? Because it kind of seems odd that you'd break a seal that way, but I
Well,
guess.
actually, those miter gates are pretty large and duty, right?
Yeah.
But once the water equalizes, there are spring struts on the arm, the strut arms, and I don't know, and Andy can allude to it a little bit now with the hydraulics, but I assume there's still spring on the arm that allows it to part slightly. And that's a good visual indicator that, okay, we're between the two chambers now, and it's appropriate time to open the gates, the chamber in front of you.
So is that like a setting
And
that
then it
automatically does it?
becomes, once those gates are open, and you'll no, not that I'm aware of. That's something you want to pay attention to.
Okay.
But once you see that gap in those gates, then you know you open those gates, and you won't overload any motor, which we used to have bull wheels and cranks and this and that, and now it's all hydraulic. But you still got to open those gates.
Sure.
But bear in mind, it was oh gosh, I can't remember the weight of the gate, but it was only a 40 horsepower motor that opened it.
Yeah.
So once those gates are open, now comes the tricky part of getting the locomotive up the incline. And whenever a locomotive is on the incline, it cannot have taut wires. It has to go slack. So that's the pilot's job to be to make sure whatever locomotives are not on the incline are keeping hold of the vessel while he's moving forward into the next chamber. And as the vessel proceeds forward, quite often those first two locomotives are going to be doing some towing, and Andy will tell you, depending on the side of the ship, it's a lot to get a vessel moving, and you may be pulling 800 amps in each of the first four locomotives just to get that vessel moving, and then once the two number ones approach that steep 45-degree incline, they're going to go slack wire, and then they're going to climb up that incline with slack wires and then get to the top. And once they're on level ground again up above, they can go tight wires, and the number twos can go slack wires, and they can crawl up that incline.
And just
now
so people
dragging
understand,
that ship, and the ship's wheel may be going.
No, I was going to say, just to so people understand, the mule has a winch inside it. So when we talk about slack or tightening it, it's not that they're speeding up or slowing down to do that. They're actually doing it internally, correct?
Well, your wires become tight with a windlass, a hydraulically controlled windlass. But then once your wires traction motors, two traction motors, they're about 350 horsepower each on the locomotives to start dragging the ship. Your wires are tight. You're not pulling them in like a winch, like you're out with a Jeep,
right?
And you're stuck in the mud. You're using those wires tight against the drums in the locomotive to drag that ship.
Gotcha. So the winch is only being used to loosen, give slack, and tighten.
Together. Yeah, there is a windlass control, and it's your two hands. You shove two hands forward, both wires go slack. You pull in tight, both wires come up tight.
Okay, interesting. There's not a lot of movement there. Then, in other words,
It's about a 6-foot drum on the inside the locomotive that you don't see, that's moving and rolling wire out or rolling wire in.
Gotcha. Okay.
And the wires are 1 inch in diameter.
Perfect. Okay, so now we're
moving that vessel into the middle level.
Okay, right, and then from there, go ahead and continue. Then, what's the next steps then?
Yep, and then we got the vessel moving. It might be moving 2 miles an hour. So then the pilot's got to say, he's got all those numbers. If you look on the overhead masts and lights like that, and thanks Jim Bradley for putting in the high mast lighting. That's really helpful. I wrote the paper on that when I was an apprentice back in 1973. But then the pilot's going to start telling his locomotives to prepare to brake. And so as you get into that chamber, he's got to watch the bow of the ship, knows how long his ship is. You'll see all the numbers painted on the side to give the dimensions of the lock. And he's going to start braking the vessel because they don't want a dime.
Right.
And that's his responsibility to make sure we have enough energy to stop that vessel. And sometimes his ship's wheel goes full reverse trying to stop, but That's the whole idea, is to keep the vessel in a nice controlled movement through the lock. And then we
Okay.
get stopped, and then at Gatun, you get to do it all over again.
Interesting. Interesting. Now, Andy, let me ask you: in the event that you're realizing, okay, something's wrong, we're not going to stop in time here. What's the emergency procedure you have there to, because obviously you don't want the ship to go and ram into the gates.
Yeah, well, you can use the ship's engines astern. Um, there is the don't sound the whistle. One long blast on the whistle is to cast off the wire. So you might, I can't remember if the danger signal would be appropriate, but to crash into the gates, um, which has happened, uh, your first thing would be to brake all the machines, which they would put their brakes on, and you back that ship with all that you can.
Okay.
Now, speaking of,
Would you ever drop an anchor?
no, do not do that.
Okay.
That happened last week. Uh, the anchor failed, the brake failed, and actually, there's a new written order that going into the locks, that everybody has to put the brake, the riding pawl, not only the brake but the riding pawl, which it doesn't let the chain out. It's another security system, uh, because they dropped the anchor. Could have hit the tug. This was in the new locks.
Oh wow.
This was about 10 days ago. Inadvertently, I don't know the details, but the anchor went out, and they put a note out, for all locks, new and old. Remind the ship's master to secure the anchor before going in. Now, a lot of things going on, that might cause a problem. You clear and you need the anchor, and they forget to unsecure it. So, but anyways, in addition, in the new locks for the first time, ship lost engine, and they hit the gates in Kokoli. From what I heard, I don't know if it's true. The ship lost engines. There was no damage or anything, because those the gates were built to take a hit.
Okay.
But yeah, but the general procedure would be to brake as hard as you can, and back down on the ship's engine.
Okay. All right. And then so now we're in the middle chamber, and you're starting to get these guys to break and stop. And are we bringing the ship to a complete stop, and therefore to what? To close the back gates and start the same water transfer process again?
Yeah, complete stop. Exactly. There's marks on the chamber wall. Depending on the size of the ship, you want to keep about 100 feet from the gate, unless you're on a 965. Then there is no 100 feet. If it's 965, uh, they back in the when they first started bringing them through, they had painted the Maersk were one of the first 965s to come through, and they had a northbound marker and a southbound marker painted
Gotcha.
in baby blue.
Interesting. Interesting. Now, how long is that in general, the transit from the time you enter that first set of locks until you clear and you're pulling into the lake there?
Oh, for Gatun,
Yeah.
I think it should be between 55 and hour 10, somewhere in there. I
Okay.
think it was
Okay.
maybe an hour 15. I can't remember. Jim
Gotcha.
did. I mean, I go through it, and time just disappears.
Yeah, I think we lost Jim temporarily here. But okay, so now, um, Hugh, at what point are you in communication with this vessel again? Is there at any point, or are you not until it leaves again on the Pacific side?
Oh no! Once he gets into the lake, we're talking to him. He's clear. he gets into the lake and he calls and then we tell him what's happening, what's up next.
Gotcha. Okay, so the only time you're not communicating directly with them then is when they're in the locks because there's too much going on internally, and
Right,
it's best to just leave them to do their thing in
right,
essence.
right.
Okay, and then now, Jim, we were just talking about as we're getting ready to get into the lake now, and he was mentioning that once they're in the lake, they start communicating with the vessel again. That during that lock transit itself is when it's basically you guys in the ship talking, and if anything, you guys are relaying for marine traffic control. So we're getting to the end of that. The chamber there, ready to get over into the lake now. What are the steps that you guys are taking on land there to, for lack of a better term, release the ship?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, it's sometimes depending upon the pilot and the vessel itself. Vessels can get away pretty quick into the lake, so it's very important for our locomotive operators to be on their game and keep their speed up. And when that pilot to release the wires, they've got to be throwing the wires off the ship as fast as possible because once those wires uh, you got to give the line handlers some slack. The vessel is accelerating away from you, and you've got to be able to get your wires off the vessel. And then they'll splash down into the water, and then you can coil them in and be ready for the next lock. Um, Someone will tell you that if you don't get your wires off of the ship in time, and that ship is pulling away, it makes two pretty white lines in the water when the wires finally come off the drum of the locomotive and splash into Gatun Lake, and you have no wires left on your locomotive.
Oh no, that's not good.
But the important thing is get your wires off the locomotive and get them coiled in, and then get back and be ready for the next vessel.
Okay, and so now, as we
And
saw
then our
in the satellite image here, and I'll move it back up to the end of the channel there. Same situation here where there's
Mhm.
that turntable, I guess, and that's where they would unhook and if necessary turn around, or do they just back up on the same rail line?
Yeah, you go right back on the same line. The only to move a locomotive from, especially on that center wall, is if there was some major issue going on, like we were going to set up for relay lockage, or you had, a locomotive that was out of service. And sometimes that happened. A windlass could go bad and be repaired during the lockage. So you'll bring another locomotive down there, and then you kind of shuffle in, and the locomotive that can move, but his windlasses don't work. He just kind of sit in between two operating locomotives until they can switch him out
Sure,
and
he's gonna
get
be
it
part of the
repaired.
party at that point.
But that's very rare. It's very rare, but it can happen. But you've got to be able to move your locomotives as necessary to attend to the vessels and make sure that we keep the transits moving smoothly.
Sure, because there's another one right behind it, waiting to get to be pushed and pulled and
Hmm.
prodded and everything
And
else.
and then of course, right after that, we're busy turning the lock around for the next southbound vessel because remember that lower chamber was up, and we got to start moving water downstream or back into the Caribbean and lower that level and be ready to take the next vessel that's coming in right behind it.
Gotcha. Now, do you guys ever move water from left to right to help raise or lower a ship, or is it always straight from the lake straight out to the ocean?
Okay, basically, it's safe. The safest way to move water is take it from one chamber to the next chamber down. Chambers are the same size; they can accept the same amount, no problem. You can get yourself into a little bit of a jam if you start trying to move water from one chamber sideways, and you may end up with a potential for flooding, especially in the middle level at Gatun. Another thing that was done was, if you can imagine, and Andrew can discuss this, we used to give what we called the hydraulic flush with vessels going to sea. We would open up and give them a little bit of water behind the vessel, um, once they started clearing out so that the vessel could get a little bit of push water behind it and
Okay.
help it move out. And
Kind
that's
of like a boogie
usually
board.
for those
Catch some of the
big,
wave.
A little bit.
just catch a little bit of hydraulic flush. And
That's clever.
Andrew,
You're
I
going to use
still
the
think
water
they
and
do that, but
use
I don't know.
gravity and all that. Might as well.
Yeah, but you're going to introduce a little bit extra water in there, so you got to remember to refill the chamber behind that.
Oh, that's true. Okay. Yeah, because you're always taking from somewhere else, and you got to replace it.
It's
Fascinating.
always coming from uphill.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. So now we've left Gatun Locks now. Welcome to the lake. At this point now, Hugh, you're back in communication with the ship. You're communicating what's up ahead, right? Especially when it comes to getting into the Gaylord Cut. And we're not going to go that far, of course, because that would involve another full transit. That's for another show, which I certainly would love to do this if we can again. But what communication are you having with the ship now, and what are you guys doing to I guess close the books on the Gatun transit?
Well, pretty much in Andy's case today, where he was South 8, he'd call, he'd say, ACD2, that's who we were, transit. South 8's in the lake, and say, okay, South 8, you got 12:10 at Gamboa, you're waiting for North 17 to clear the cut. So he looks at his watch and he says, well, I got 4 hours. You know, now what? It takes him 2 hours. You know, he can loaf across the lake at 2 hours and it would work sweet.
So he's going to find a place to go do some
So,
fishing.
yeah, he's probably going to go to Anchor.
Okay.
And maybe have a real breakfast.
Right.
And then get back underway again to meet the 12 o'clock at Gamboa.
Okay, and here we're going to talk about a little bit of the beginning of the transit and the end of the transit here, because we have line handlers. Okay, and these guys get on the ship, and they're the ones that are helping to hook the mules up and whatnot, and then obviously unhook them on the other end, right? So
Exactly.
we mentioned earlier that we were talking about the Davis landing or the Davis launches, where they typically will get on the ship from in that area there. On the other side now, you've cleared the chamber. You guys have checked in. You're in the lake now. Where are they getting off there, and what's happening to those guys next?
Oh yeah, that launch should be right alongside the ship as they come out.
Okay, so it's right away. As soon as they're done with their job, they're
A
off.
lot of times those ships are going to Gamboa, and they got to go. So that launch is going to be chasing them to get those deckhands off.
Okay.
So ideally, the launch would be right there, come alongside. As soon as those guys finish casting off the locomotives, they're making their way back to the ladder to get off.
Gotcha. Okay, and they're off that ship, and they're either heading to another ship or their shift is up or whatever the case is. But
Right.
they're done with the ship. They've cast off all the lines. So now the Gatun Locks is finished with this ship. Is there anything, Jim? Is there anything on your end that you do to sign off on it, or you just wave and move on to the next job?
Yeah, next one.
Pretty much that's it.
Yeah,
Huh?
we're basically turning the lock around and then we're going to head back north with our locomotive. Master's going to walk the wall back down. The control tower is going to be closing the appropriate valves, miter gates, and then get there around so we can have another vessel come in the lower level.
I got a question. Is this a high stress moment when they're going through the locks, or is this pretty routine for you guys?
That's a great question, Ricky. And it all
That's the best question, and we got it froze up on here. That's Murphy's Law there.
Yeah. What do you say, Andy?
Well, for me, I mean, after being in the new locks, I'll tell you that's pretty draining. It's the amount of concentration on that is. We're gonna have to do a segment on that. It's just another world over there. So, after being in the new locks for so long, you come over to the old locks. It's of course you might become complacent. You don't want to be. There is a lot of focus. and I think it might be um, appear to be easier, because you have the locomotives holding you in place. But buyer beware, don't let your guard down because anything can go wrong, and the margins are smaller in the old locks, for sure.
Sure. Yeah, that makes
Much
sense.
smaller margins, and you don't want, it's not fun touching the side or scraping or hitting or banging or any of that. Nobody wants to do that. So you need to be on your toes when moving from chamber to chamber, and even sometimes when you're just sitting there, the shift may drift and uh, and uh, and touch. So the name of the game is stay flat, don't touch, and be always vigilant of what everybody's doing. And at the end of the day, it mentally draining because your level of concentration is at a peak.
Sure. Well, then you got a lot of pressure on you. I mean, you're responsible for this entire vessel.
Yeah, and there's consequences on top of it.
I
So
can imagine.
nobody wants to face the music on your decision.
And
As
Michael Jan's
Michael
asking a
Jan was
question.
asking about wind,
Yeah.
wind doesn't shut down the canal, but it definitely delays it in different approaches, especially to Agua Clara northbound. You got a lot of wind, you definitely will slow it down. The only thing that does shut down the canal or shut down the scheduling is about 10 years ago when they had excessive water flooding. And over there at Shaggers Crossing, I went through just about when the peak I mean, there was 6 foot of water above the gates, or 6 to 8 feet
Wow, that's crazy.
above the gates. So, that current, as soon as it sent somebody to the bank, they hit the bank, they said, hey, enough of that. We're stopping
Sure.
the traffic.
Now, is that
Because
because
I was
of
going,
rain or because they discharge too much water on one side, like
it's a
Jen was
tricky
mentioning?
game. It's that water manager is tricky because, he's playing. Do I let go more water? Do I
Right.
hold?
Playing weatherman.
It sounds like it's such a high stress job for
Yeah,
these
well, you,
guys.
you gotta
Like,
you gotta track the weather, and you if you let too
yeah.
much water out, hoping it's gonna rain the next few days, and the rain doesn't show up, now you're you're a little low.
Yeah. So in this case, they didn't let out enough, and a big system came through, dumped so much water, they couldn't get rid of it quick enough.
Sure. Well, and
And
we all know from living in Panama that I mean, in an hour you can have a deluge that it's
On
suddenly.
one side of the street, on the other side, it's
Yeah,
just
no
sunny.
kidding, no kidding, no kidding there. So, Leaf's asking a quick question also. The new locks, do they have locomotives?
yeah, no, they don't. It's just tugs.
Interesting, interesting. I guess they're so big, you'd have these extremely long lines anyway to use with a locomotive too. That in itself probably doesn't make sense, but cool. Well, listen, guys, this has been really awesome. We've gone a long time, but that being said, there's still a ton of questions out there. So I certainly hope that this isn't the last time that we can get this group together because this was very, very informative. Gave us all a lot of insight on the actual movement of a ship through the canal. Again, we've grown up living down there. We took everything for granted, but we never learned these things. We just knew there was a canal there. We knew there was locks and all that stuff, and we knew that there was pilots and locomotives, but how it all worked and all that stuff. This was a really, really cool show. I'm glad we finally were able to pull this off. And again, I want to go through another one of these. I'd also like to ideally, Hugh, I'd love to have you on one day and let's just talk about marine traffic control. What that was all about, everything involved there, whatever you're allowed to talk about.
Whatever I can remember.
Yeah, there you go. That as well. Milita was great. She was instrumental in actually connecting you and I together because she suggested you. But hopefully we can get
She's a
her on to
sweetheart.
help out with that as well. But I would really love to learn more about marine traffic control and what that place was like and how all that works because you gave us a story of one ship and so we learned that story. But as you said, once that ship entered that channel there, You're like, hey, I'll talk to you guys in a little while. In the meantime, I got other ships I got to worry about. And so,
Oh yeah, it was quite busy. It was very, very, very seldom that you had a quiet night.
and that's one of those things where busy is
one
good.
more thing. I don't know how long you want to go here, but let's just touch on it real quick.
Yeah, please go ahead.
So when the ship comes to go into the chamber's full. It's at sea level. Okay, Andrew's coming in. So the chamber's full of water. Now the ship comes in. Guess what? The water had to go out. However much water that ship takes, the displacement of that ship, that water had to come out.
Right.
So it's like a syringe in a plunger in a syringe.
Okay.
Okay. So the ship's coming in. The water comes up around the sides of the ship and is rushing out the back. And actually, as he's driving it in, the propeller's corkscrewing the water out underneath.
So the propeller's working more as a pump for water than it is to
Somewhat,
move the ship.
he could tell you, but yeah, I mean, you can't just drive that ship in there because there's a wall in front and the water
Sure.
you just get a head of water in front of the ship.
And like Andrew said earlier, water does not compress. So whatever
Exactly.
area it moves, it's got to have a place to go to.
But it's a really unusual, it's a difficult concept for the layperson to understand. If you could pluck that ship out once the gates are closed, if you could pluck that ship out and see how much water's left in there.
That's amazing.
You see? It'd be like
Sure.
you fill your bathtub up and your kids jump in, the water's going over the top.
Yeah, right. And then
All
when they
right?
get out, it's a lot lower.
There you go. So it's a concept that it's just not really understood. So as he's driving that ship in, he's fighting those currents, the water rushing down the sides and around the bow.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what causes some of those movements that all of a sudden can be quite sudden.
Oh yeah, the hydrodynamics in that is, and even it'll even settle. Where we were talking about when we get to Pedro McGill locks, that's where the sill is the shallowest.
We got to stop giving Andrew such a hard time that he's got such an easy job.
No, he definitely
Well,
does.
the biggest
making all the big bucks.
the biggest problem is
good job, Andrew. We have a lot of respect, brother, for the stuff you do.
Yeah, the biggest issue, as Hugh was talking about, what makes the biggest difference for moving a ship from chamber to chamber? There's only one thing that makes the biggest difference. It can be a huge container ship, big dry bulk carrier. The key thing is the draft, the underkeel clearance. As soon as that distance reduces, so does your speed, so does your struggle through the chamber. As soon as that goes to deeper water, the thing just starts popping and moving. Your underkeel clearance is the key. So when you're moving along at Miraflores, or for example, a good example is you come up in the chamber, you're all the way up in the chamber at Miraflores. You put the hammer down, you have them, the locomotives towing, everybody's towing. You're cruising along, you're moving. And as soon as you get to that lake, Miraflores Lake, or the Jaws, you just about stop. I'm not kidding you. Because the endocure clearance, now you have the depth of the chamber, and you meet the sill. The sill, of course, is a step. So the chamber at Miraflores is deep. You got 10, 15 feet under you. As soon as you hit that sill, boom, the ship stops. I'm not kidding. So, I mean, completely comes to a stop. And it's that underkeel clearance.
Is that because the water is almost like a river then, I guess, in a sense? Because they become more shallow, but the water's moving through the chamber?
To do that. So you need to be on your toes whenever.
No, so what I was saying, Andrew, is that because as you get into that more shallow area, the water is moving faster? Is that the situation, and that slows the ship down?
No, the water doesn't compress. The water's not compressed. So it acts like a skid.
So it's like a
be
bumper.
always vigilant of what
Yeah,
everybody's
it
doing.
acts like it
And at
just
the end of the day,
completely
it's
stops.
really
Interesting.
mentally
Wow,
draining
that's amazing.
because your
Cool. And
level of
listen, and Jim,
concentration
when you stepped away just a
is
moment
at a
ago, and I was
peak.
mentioning to Hugh that
Plus,
there's
you got a lot of
there's still a
practice.
lot more that we want to learn about what
Yeah,
the
and there's
Gatoon locks was all about and everything, just like we want
nobody
to learn
wants
more
to
about marine traffic control. So I'd love to have
fix
another
the music on
segment
that.
on and just talk about the locks, the Gatoon locks, the makeup of the locks, the personnel involved, who worked where, what they did, and that kind of stuff. If you would grace us with your company again. But that's something we want to definitely talk about down the road. We have certainly gone quite a bit here, and there's still a lot more to offer because this is a fantastic story. I certainly look at the canal a lot more differently now, as far as how things operate and whatnot. So I'm looking forward to step two of this, step three, and step four down the road at some point here. But again, guys, thank you so much for taking the time to spend with us, getting to know you guys, getting to know your jobs, and for us to get to know what a transit in the canal really was, because it was fascinating to see all the steps that are involved and things that we wouldn't even normally think about or take for granted. So I'll leave you guys quick parting shots there before we call it a night. Jim, anything you want to add or give to the audience here before we part ways?
No, always my pleasure. Thanks, guys. I'm at 1% battery, so I'm going to sign off and just watch from this point on.
You
But
got it.
thanks
Thank
a
you so
lot.
much, Jim.
Hugh, appreciate your perspective. Sorry you did join in. Captain Andy, always a pleasure to have your perspective and love it. And Ricky, you're a great host, and we didn't get to do any bochinche yet.
We'll give him a double dose
Next
of it
week,
next week.
we have a lot of bochinche, a lot of stuff to
Awesome.
catch you guys up with.
Well, Jim, have a wonderful weekend, and like I said, we'll post your golf tournament information on the SCN Canal Zone page as well, and we'll keep chatting around, and hopefully we'll see you in the audience next week.
Thank you guys. Thank you.
Take care, Hugh. Again, thank you for spending time with us as well. Loved having your perspective on marine traffic control. Again, I want to revisit that and really get to know marine traffic control and what your job was across the board, not just bringing the one ship into Gatun there. And then at some point, I wouldn't mind having you on and maybe help us kickstart our Canals and Police show because that one seems even tougher to to get
I
everybody together for that one.
I was weak in the police now. I was only there a short while.
Well, we'll get some kind of perspective from you. You'll be the newbie, the rookie cop, is what
Yeah, there
we'll
you go.
call you
Yeah,
there.
Hey,
yeah,
it was
yeah.
great.
And
I appreciated everything. Call me when you want.
You got it. Thanks again, Hugh. Have yourself a wonderful weekend. Andrew, again, as always, love having you on the show. Love getting your perspective on bringing ships through the canal. I absolutely love getting your phone calls in the middle of the day and be like, "Hey, check this out where I'm at here," and so please keep doing that. Looking forward to having you on for our next Panama Canal report. And again, guys, remember, if you're going down to Panama, hopefully in January for the Canal Zone reunion, remember Cascadas Lodge is a wonderful bed and breakfast. If you want to go and take a tour of the canal, you want to go to Contador, or want to go to Toboga, okay, see Panama, spelled SEA Panama. That's your choice for boating out there. So, Andrew, thanks again for taking
Hey,
time
thank you
Friday to
guys.
join
You
us,
guys are
man.
my brothers. Love you guys. What you're doing is just I can't say thank you enough. It's really brought a lot of joy this last year, a lot of memories, and the fellowship of our community, and sharing it internationally, so that the word is out what life was like in the zone. And let's keep up the good work. Hugh and Jim, known them many years. Always a pleasure to be with such distinguished guests. My honor. Thank you, guys.
You
thank
got it.
you.
Thanks.
Thank
All
you.
right,
And
Andy.
you always have an open invitation to join us. So we'll get another Canal Zone report for you probably sometime after the reunion, and then work our way towards Panama next year. But Andrew, have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy your Memorial Day weekend, and we will talk to you down the road, man.
Cheers.
Cheers. All right. Ricky, man, that was really cool,
I
man.
know,
It was
Willie.
everything I thought it was going to be and more. It was.
And more. You know what? We just educate the world every week, and for that I am so grateful, Willie.
Yeah.
Man. Thank you.
It's a lot of
Thank
fun.
you, everybody out there. What a great evening. A lot of you guys were on. Alpha Romeo 15, Michael Young. I mean, we had a great audience tonight. McGee, Mr. Katsuya, my little brother. I mean, it was a great evening, guys. Thank you for joining us.
Absolutely.
We will see you next week.
You know it,
Without a
8
doubt.
p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Canal Zone Time. Not sure what the agenda's on for next week, but either way, the one thing we know for sure that's on the agenda is talking to you guys and saying hello and enjoying kicking off our weekends with our Canal Zone family. So, again, everybody, thank you so much for joining us. Have a wonderful Memorial Day weekend. Be safe out there, everybody. Cheers and salute, guys. Take care.